Welcome to the Belly Up Sports' NFL draft coverage. And Chris Dowhauer, co-host of the MD's Fantasy Football Show and Belly Up Fantasy Live. Let's go to the pick here. Terrace Marshall finally off the board. All the NFL fantasy football and pick betting analysis you could ever need through this draft coverage. So the Detroit Lions are the ones on the clock. They're going to make their pick soon, but the Giants, I'm getting word, just traded with the Miami Dolphins from 40. It's time for your coverage to start now. All right, welcome in everybody to the NFL draft coverage hosted by Belly Up Sports and MD's Fantasy Football Show. We had a bit of a malfunction just a minute ago, but we are back here just to get you caught up in case you're wondering what happened. The Ravens just took David Ojabo. So you guys are going to be able to talk about that because I got to hop off and get everybody else set up for the rest of the night now because of that. So, Chris, take it away, man. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Yeah, guys, we saw actually two pass rushers come off the board in the last two picks. We saw Ojabo, the guy we talked about going to the Ravens. We saw Pascal go. Do you guys have any comments about these two players? Especially Ojabo, a guy who's people liked a lot. Go ahead.
I love Ojabo. I think that is a steal for the Ravens. I think he would have been a first-round pick. What did he hurt himself at the pro day, right?
George ACL, pro day.
I know this is, and you notice I got a Michigan Big Ten championship shirt on. I think in 3 years he might be better than Hutchinson. I think his ceiling is really high. I think it's incredibly high. I love this young man. He is a disruptor. He is the perfect Baltimore, the Ravens do smart things. They understand value, right? In 2023, they're going to have Hamilton popping people all over the secondary, and they're going to have Ojabo killing quarterbacks. They just always do the right thing, the Ravens.
Yeah, I don't think I could say it any better than that. The Ravens have been doing – they may not have done the best by Lamar, but they've done a very, very good job in the trenches on the defense with Hamilton and everything that they've done. That's been really, really powerful for them. Really good drafting.
Yeah, I mean, even with the Hollywood Brown trade, I think they're killing this draft. They're
agreed. Yes.
No, even with the Brown trade, I know people are going to be pissed. Looking back, you can't say this was a bad draft because you build up the offensive line, you build up the defense. That's what's going to win you a fucking Super Bowl. It's not going to be Hollywood Brown making a catch, especially with Lamar Jackson quarterback.
The only potential downfall of this for the Ravens is if they turned off Lamar completely. That's the only thing. If they pissed off Lamar, then they effed up regardless of if this is a good draft. But it is an A+ draft. The players they've gotten and the value they've gotten is incredible.
Yeah,
and I'm a big believer. You have to defeat your division opponents first. When you have to deal with Burrow, Deshaun Watson, and if it's Trubisky and or Pickett, how do you stop those? Rush the passer and have a ball-hawking safety. I mean, they're going to attack this division on the defensive side of the field.
Yeah, I think they're going to get the Ravens team again. Go ahead.
I also think with the Ojabo pick, he's still learning to play football. He started playing football at 17 years old. He's an athletic freak. He can get after the passer phenomenally. For a guy who's played football for 4 or 5 years? It's ridiculous. Yeah. I actually love this pick. Jared from the corner booth telling me that he might be a better player than Aiden Hutchinson. I'm not buying that yet. But if in 3 or 4 years, I might have to eat crow and admit that that's right. Because this dude just knows how to play football.
I mean, I'll say this. Hutchinson had a better year. There's no question about it. There were flashes of brilliance with Ojabo, and he hasn't hit his ceiling.
That's talked about that. Scouts have been really high on him.
And so you're also now, what's fascinating, Hutchinson was the second pick overall. Ojabo's 45th. I mean, look at the value you're getting there.
Yeah. So after we had Joshua Pascal going, edge rusher from Kentucky. Any thoughts about him as a guy that's kind of all over the board? Some people have him going as high as the second round. Some people have him going later in the fourth, fifth round. What is kind of your guys' take on that pick by the Lions?
I think it's a good move. He's 6'3", a little undersized, 6'3", 268. I don't think he's a full-time defensive end or outside linebacker. I think he's probably a 35, maybe 40 down guy. I think he has value. I do like the Wildcats defense. They put a lot of good players in the NFL. If you're not watching the SEC on a regular basis, you might not realize how good Kentucky is as a program, especially on the defensive side of the ball. With Dan Campbell, with what the Lions are trying to do, I think he fits their scheme. And if he can hit his ceiling, I think that's a good pick. Hey, he could be a double-digit sack guy. Could be, 10, 11 sacks in his prime. I like it. I don't think he's a superstar. I think Ajabu has a better ceiling. But this is a nice player for Detroit.
Yeah, I think it's a good fit. To your point there with Dan Campbell and them, I think it's a really good fit. I don't necessarily love the value, but it's a good fit for them.
I also think. Go ahead. Oh, Chris, sorry, nope. This is your show right now. You can talk.
You guys are on a roll, so I'll let you guys kind of go. But I was just going to say, you look at a guy, the Pascal. I think he complements Hutchinson really well. And I think that you also look at it. Trey Flowers is pretty successful in a system similar to that you talked about. Reminds me a lot of Trey Flowers. Is kind of his rushing skill set. It definitely is a guy who's going to probably be a pass rusher initially. Maybe grows into something more than that. But yeah, go ahead, jump in there.
He's a very good piece to add to a winning team. And now Detroit's not a winning team right now, but he's the kind of guy, if another team draft him, go, oh, this guy could be the X factor. You can get after the quarterback. He's a good defensive guy you can rotate in who can help disrupt the game. And Detroit needs guys like that. They need guys who they need everything. Honestly, it's Detroit. They've needed everything for the past 25 years, my entire life. But he's the kind of guy where you can look at and go, yeah, maybe he can't play every down, but the downs that he can play, he will be a difference maker and might make it so they're not drafting in the top 5 every year anymore.
Well, talk about defensive line. We saw the Washington Commanders take Fadarian Mathis from Alabama, the behemoth defensive tackle from Alabama. What is your guys' kind of take on that?
Mathis is a stud. Just flat out. Anyone who says otherwise is wrong. This dude, he doesn't make flashy plays. He's not the traditional Alabama defensive tackle that people think of. He's not a Jonathan Allen. He's not an A'Shawn Robinson. But he is a stud. He can make plays when necessary. And he's continuing the trend of the Washington Commanders just drafting every single member of their front seven from the University of Alabama. And it's worked out pretty well for them on the defensive side of the ball. So I love this pick, actually. I was really hoping – I wasn't hoping he'd go to Alabama.
Well, let me ask you guys real quick on that point. You talked about some of the guys they have drafted from Alabama. This is a lot of draft capital spent on that defensive line, particularly defensive tackle. So this is something maybe a little bit overkill where they continue to kind of load up defensive tackle particularly. And then the edge rush is something the NFL always wants to have. You can't have too many of. Defensive tackles aren't necessarily premiums that you have 2, 3, 4 of them. So I'm kind of curious what you guys kind of take on that is.
I think Jonathan Allen's Hitler comments in the offseason probably forced this pick a little bit. Like, oh, yeah, I'd have dinner with Hitler. Like, no, Jonathan, you can't say that. So I think Mathis is – I think that's part of the reason Mathis was picked here, just in case Jonathan Allen says anything else like, yeah, we're not going to re-sign you. You can go away.
Adam, I can't see your head shaking your head there. What do you think, Adam?
I think worst case, this is a guy that has a role that's a little bit different from some of the other guys on this defensive line. This defensive line kind of has a ton of talent, but it underachieved a little bit, especially early last year. But really on the year overhaul, just kind of based on expectations, given another year for everyone. So I think worst case, this is maybe a little high for someone who's just playing a role. But he's someone who's talented enough who can play a lot more than that, again, if they were to move on from a Jonathan Allen or one of the other players on the interior there. So he's someone who can play a role, kind of like what the Lions just did, has an initial role and the ability to grow into a much bigger one.
I think it fits Ron Rivera, how he wants to put together a defense. If you remember, he's from the Chicago Bear, that 46 tree, right? And what does he need? He needs defensive linemen who can attack the pass rusher. They lost Chase Young. You said last year they got off to a slow start. You know, I think if you're going to build your team on the defensive line, you can never have too many defensive linemen, right? You're going to have a rotation and you're going to have injuries. This is a type of player that fits what Rivera wants to do. You know, I don't know how often he's going to be on the field, but hey, injuries open up all the time. He fits what Rivera wants.
You make a great point. You saw that in kind of Carolina. You know, they kept continuing to draft defensive tackles, kind of looking for those two guys to kind of take up as much room as possible in a sense. So absolutely, this seems to definitely a Ron Rivera pick, a guy that he definitely prefers. We have, Chicago traded down. They made their pick. What do you guys kind of think about Chicago's pick? I don't have it coming up on my thing yet. Does anybody else have it coming up on theirs yet?
I do.
Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State.
Jaquan Brisker for Penn State, the safety. Yeah, definitely a guy that I think is definitely a starter in the NFL. And then he's a game changer. We're talking a lot about guys that are kind of pieces or solid players. I think this guy's a solid player. I think he's going to not make any big mistakes. He'll kind of keep things in front of him. I don't think he's going to be a huge impact in the sense that he's going to be a game changer. They have Eddie Jackson that kind of fell off a great deal last year. So they definitely need to kind of address that safety position. Adam, what was your kind of take on that?
Yeah, I think you hit it really well. I mean, it's a good starter, not necessarily the flashiest pick in the world, but a good starter. You pointed out Eddie Jackson, some other guys in the corner or in the defensive backfield, mind you, had a bit of a down year, not as good as it had been because it had been a pretty strong unit, at least for what Chicago had. But yeah, I think it's a solid pick.
As we're waiting for the Saints pick, does anybody think this could be where Willis finally goes?
Look, it's got to be a quarterback here, right? We're a big 49. All the next 5 guys, we all know the next 5 ranked quarterbacks. They're a little different. It seems like this is the place, but right there, Quad doesn't think so. So why do you think he doesn't go there, Quad?
Jameis can see now. He got that LASIK eye surgery. He can see now. He knows where to put the ball. He's not going to get confused by the other team's jerseys. So Jameis can see. That's my big thing. I think the Saints probably will take a quarterback. But also, I do want to talk about that Brisker pick. I hate that pick.
Okay. Go ahead.
I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to get in. I know Eddie Jackson had a down year, but he has proven that he can be a player in this league, an impact player. 1 down year doesn't change that. They're trying to get 2 good safeties to kind of man the top of the field. They just lost Allen Robinson. They need to replace him at the wide receiver position. I know they have Darnell Mooney, who showed that he could be a game changer in the receiving game. That's all they have. I'm sorry. I don't trust Cole Kmet at tight end. I don't trust Byron Pringle. If I could speak, that'd be great. I don't trust Equanimus St. Brown. They need Sky Moore's there. I think they need to take a receiver. They need to develop that offense to give Justin Fields weapons and give him a fucking coach who will help him out. Like, that's the 2 things they need: a coach help him out and offensive weapons.
Well, let me ask you this. Now that I'm back again, Chris, sorry, I'll jump in here real quick.
I missed you, Dan.
What wide receiver is on the board right now that you could definitely take that you can't get in the next round? Because right now, at least as far as my grades go, I got a cluster of about 5 guys that really are about in the same tier, and one of these guys is going to be involved in the 3rd round. They need guys who can get them turnovers, especially in that division. Brisker can help you do that as he's one of the true center fielders left in this draft.
I'm going to comment real quick, and I want to kind of Adam's take on this. Is this a coaching staff that doesn't necessarily value the receiving position? We saw the Colts for year in, year out. As a Colts fan, kind of always had that glaring need, the receiver position. They had T.Y. Hilton and nobody else. Darnell Mooney kind of profiles a lot like T.Y. Hilton in a lot of ways. Is this something maybe they're not looking to necessarily upgrade the receiver position and kind of a coaching decision in a sense?
Well, and to add to that point, the Colts had really valued, especially under Eberflus, having a lot of early to mid-round safeties. There are a lot of safeties around, say, 2 to 4, and Kari Willis, Blackman, a handful of others. That was certainly a priority for them. So I think, yeah, this is definitely an Eberflus touch.
Can I just say, I think this is a very interesting analysis, how the Jets are building around Zach Wilson and how the Bears are building around Justin Fields. The Jets are giving Zach Wilson an opportunity to be successful. You know, if he fails, we're going to learn a lot. It's about Zach Wilson. There's no excuses with Elijah Moore, you know, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, a good offensive line, very underrated offensive line.
Sorry to cut you off there, but the pick is in, and it is a corner. Alontae Taylor goes to the Saints, so they go back to the defensive side of the ball. Go ahead, John. Finish your thought there, and you can give me your analysis here on Alontae Taylor.
I mean, normally I like going defense, and I understand why the Bears are doing it. However, if I'm investing in a young quarterback, I have to kind of change how I'm putting together a team to help the young man be successful.
I was going to say real quick, as an ex-Chicago Bears fan, this is why they never have a good quarterback, because exactly what I'm talking about.
It's part of it, right?
Oh, it's absolutely a huge part of it. They figure out a way never to help this guy be successful.
All right, so Alontae Taylor off the board to the Saints. Again, addressing that secondary position. Was this the top guy on your guys' board if this is the direction that they wanted to go? Because I liked Martin Emerson a bit more, but either way, I don't know if I valued a corner in this round that's left. Good, Chris.
Yeah, I think Alontae Taylor's got a lot of skill sets now. I think Emerson's probably more polished, and I think Emerson's more of a guy that could probably tackle right now and be a guy that you can kind of depend on to set the edge. But this guy, I think, has a lot of potential to get better. A guy I think has good ball skills. A speedster, 6 foot tall. Guy ran a 4.3, I think 4 or below 4.4, I should say. A guy that can definitely has long reach. And I think with Lattimore on the other side, he profiles pretty well with him. The kid they took from Stanford last year. And I think you have 3 corners right now that can really, shut down that division. When you play against Tampa Bay and some of those teams, you want to make sure you can kind of have guys who can cover them. So I don't hate it. Now, I think there's definitely other places the Saints could definitely upgraded. I think they should be done necessarily on their offense, and I don't think it should definitely be done on defensive line. But I do think that this is a guy that's a pretty good corner. I think it's a pick your preference in the sense of some of the corners that are left right now.
Now, Adam, while I was trying to fix things in the background there, I did want to get to you because the Colts seem like they refused to take a draft pick this year, trading back again in the second round. They finally came up. Doesn't seem like they want it to happen. They do come up, I believe, in the next 3-4 picks. So what do you want them to do, man? Or are they just like, whatever, it doesn't matter. They clearly don't want to get better or younger.
I mean, I think you know where my head's at. I still want a receiver. We're getting towards the middle end of the second. I think Alec Pierce is a good fit here. I think it's a good fit for what they need. It's a good fit for Matt Ryan. I think he's going to do very well with a bigger receiver with Pittman, obviously, on the other side. And, I mean, the AFC South is in a really precarious situation, I would say, in that right now it looks like the best 3 receivers or so are Michael Pittman, Brandon Cooks, and and probably Burks right there. I mean, it's a really bad spot. Maybe Christian Kirk. Burks and Christian Kirk take your poison as the 3rd best receiver. So I think that the South is wide open. The defense is already really good, and they need to get one more piece on that offense, and they can actually make a push for the division.
The Patriots do something they don't normally do, and they trade up here. The Chiefs trade out pick, and the Patriots trade in. So now they are on the clock.
Give me the Kobe Dean.
Who's 110 on the board, guys? Who's 110 on the board?
Give me the Kobe Dean.
Who's the Rams 110 on the board? That's what they really want to do. All right, so we know who Kevin wants to see here. John, what do you think the Patriots are trading up here for?
I do think it's defense, and I look at the best player available. It definitely seems like Nakobe Dean is at the top of most boards at this time. Now, I have some questions. It's hard for a 229-pound linebacker, so I'm not sure. But Belichick knows what he's doing. If you're going to be able to find a way to use this young man, despite it would have been nice if he was 240, 245. But I think the value is there. But would they go like a cornerback here? I mean, or a defensive lineman. Belichick loves those linemen, so I'm not sure. But Dean is the highest rated player.
I think the flavor of the month in the NFL right now is those undersized kind of tweener linebacker, safety, corner combo. Like you had Isaiah Simmons a couple years ago. You have guys who are fast enough and athletic enough. You can drop back into coverage. They can get back into they can get to the quarterback. Nakobe Dean's pretty good at that, but he makes his bread and butter dropping into coverage. He's athletic enough to do it. And our linebacking core, I know the Mac Wilson trade for Chase Winovich adds some youth and some speed to this linebacker core. We need to get younger. We got rid of Dante, or didn't get rid of him. He might retire. Dante Hightower, that dude is a fucking dinosaur. He has a walker on the field every Sunday, and he can't move. We got rid of Kyle Van Noy because he was 31 and making too much money. We need to get some speed in the linebacking core.
Oh, wait, I don't know.
Give me the Kobe Dean, please.
It won't be.
And a playmaker.
Dan's laughing, so it's obviously not. But
I'm waiting for confirmation. Because I don't. If I say this one and it's not right, then it's gonna be. Oh no, it is. You want to know how low this pick is? Chris doesn't even have a graphic for me to use on this pick. It's Tyquan Thornton, the guy who ran the 4.26 40 from
You're
Baylor,
kidding me!
Receiver, the guy that everyone thought was nothing more than a special teams player, not 109, who is 709. That's who the Patriots wanted to go with here. And they took a special teams player. They traded up for him in the second round. Nobody
Bill, what
in
the
their
fuck are you doing?
Was going to take them here. Nobody at all. Kev, I got your back. Don't worry. I'll hit it again.
Look,
what
I
an
know
awful
the Patriots like special teams. And I'm sorry, Dad, I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't know what the fuck is going on. I know Bill likes special teams. I know Matthew Slater is the greatest gunner in NFL history. Steve Trasker fans argue with a fucking wall. The difference is Matthew Slater was a 6th round pick. A 6th rounder. You do not take a special teams guy in the 2nd round when you need linebackers. You need fucking receivers. You need, for some fucking reason, you need offensive line help because you traded away all of our good offensive linemen and then drafted a guy who was projecting you in the 3rd round in the 1st. I don't know what is going on. Oh, also, you refuse to pay cornerbacks, so you let J.C. Jackson walk to your former offensive coordinator's team in the fucking Raiders. I don't know what is going on in New England, and I know I should expect this every year, but I hate it here.
How about I give you this one? You got Patriot beat writers right now tweeting out saying, like, "Oh, Mac Jones is exactly what he needed, a speedy outside wide receiver." Unbelievable.
Look, I like Mac Jones. I love Mac Jones. My name on Twitter is McCorkle Stan account. I have followed this guy from when he was at Alabama. I lost my shit when the Patriots drafted him because I was so happy. But the arm strength concerns are a real thing right now. I'm not saying it's not going to improve. Why are you getting a speed guy who's presumed to be a deep threat when your quarterback has arm strength concerns?
John, you're in the fantasy world like I am. You do all these prospects and are really a great expert when it comes to college prospects and dynasty and draft in general. The draft capital here. Does this mean anything for Tyquan? I had to throw it out there, man, because you know it's going to be a question throughout the offseason. Does the draft capital mean anything for his dynasty value moving forward?
You know what it means? I'm going to get value on John Mechie because people are going to go for Tyquan Thornton, and I'm not going to have one share on any dynasty team. I do not have one share of Tutu Atwell from last year. I did not have one share of John Ross from the Bengals. I will have 0 shares of the Baylor Speedster. And it's not, he might be good. There is no way the Pats had to trade up. What is this pick number? Let me get this. 50. They did not have to trade up to get him. No one, let me repeat, no one was reaching for him here. They could have got him in the 3rd round. Please, this is crazy.
On that lovely note, the Philadelphia Eagles have taken Cam Jurgens, but I have to get you guys off here and get our next slate of guests in. I want to thank you all so much for coming in. John, we'll start with you because you just had the great soundbite there at the end. Where can everybody follow you at? What do you have coming up?
Thank you, my friend. Follow me right there below on Twitter at GridironSkull91, and I will have a post-draft dynasty rankings on footballdiehards.com, and I will guarantee you Thornton is not in the top 36 players on my list.
Kev, where can we follow you? When's your next time your show is going to be coming on, man?
At BellyUpKev on both Twitter and Instagram, and at Quad Tailgate on both Twitter and Instagram. Show's probably coming back in July, but I'm probably going to fucking kill myself before then because the Patriots are abysmal.
Adam, we're going to see you again in just a little bit. So everybody, stay tuned to the NFL draft coverage here with Belly Up Sports and the MD's Fantasy Football Show. We'll be back right after this.
Get your party started with the Kong Beer Bong. You get a can cooler for those chilled, laid-back get-togethers, and a built-in beer bong for when things start to get a little wild. It's portable and ready to party no matter where you are in the world. It's perfect for any holiday event. And the party doesn't stop there. They have an assortment of fun party accessories to take your party to the next level. Be the most wanted party animal for any get-together with the Kong Beer Bong. Visit BellyUpSports.com today. Click our Partners tab. All shipments in America are free.
All right, everybody, welcome into the NFL draft coverage here with the MD's Fantasy Football Show, part of Belly Up Sports. The picks are flying off the board, but first I want to introduce our guests. I want to thank you guys for coming on first and foremost. We got two Daves here. We got Dave Heelman. We got Dave Hartman coming on. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Dave, I'm going to call you guys by your last name because otherwise this is going to be a long night. Hartman, we're going to go with you first here. We got to get some reactions because the Patriots now 2 picks in a row have shocked the world with what they've done. What's your reaction to that?
I love it because I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, and I'm sick of seeing this team, dominate the AFC East, kill the draft by trading down, collecting more picks. I'm happy to see them making picks that everyone is scratching their heads as they watch. So I'm good with it. But I don't know what they're doing. I mean, I think twice now they've taken guys they could have gotten later, and that doesn't sound like Bill Belichick, so I don't know what's in the water up in Boston. And I'm thrilled to be here, by the way, so thank you for having me on.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And here's a pick that's going to be scratching my head a little bit, too. So the Steelers are going to be going George Pickens. They take their Chase Claypool Part 2, the matchup with their no-arm quarterbacks. So we'll go with Heelman now. Heelman, what's your reaction to this?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting one. We kind of saw a tackle as an option there. They got some defensive holes to fill. They've lost a lot of defensive players in free agency the last couple of years. Just maybe it was too good of a value. But yeah, that's a head scratcher.
Chris, let's circle back real quick to the Eagles pick because we didn't really get a chance to talk about it with all the excitement over the Patriots pick. They took the center/guard Cam Jurgens. I didn't have him up that high on my board, but they're trying to address the need there in the interior of their offensive line. But what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think he's not a guy that has high on my board either, but is one of the guys that is probably equipped to play center. A guy that definitely kind of be, pick your preference in the sense that the centers are left on the board. I like the Lindstrom kid more from Boston College, but I think this is a guy that the Eagles, that Kelsey's getting older. It's probably in the last year or two of his deal. They have insurance with losing Barrett Brooks as well. So I think this is a guy that kind of ensures the offensive line will continue to be a strength of the Eagles.
So then after that, the Colts have just moved into the pick 53 spot. The Vikings traded out again. I'm still trying to work on getting the details of what that just inquired.
Can I just comment real quick on the Patriots?
Sure.
I find it funny that everybody seems to be shocked. This is what the Patriots do every year. They take, especially when it comes to receiver, when they draft receivers, it's always somebody that's not that good for Belichick. It never materializes. And then they always take somebody in the second round that everybody's like, what in the world did you do that? Patrick
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but the Colts just went Alec Pierce. So Adam, who's been on, just got the guy that he wanted here. Alec Pierce coming off the boards. They get a speedster to match up with Michael Pittman on the other side. This is one of the few second-round picks so far that I've actually liked, to be honest, or at least in this range anyway, that I've liked here. He matches up really well with Michael Pittman does. Now he'll be able to operate how he has in the past, be a big man slot, go in and out. Pierce will be there to take on that T.Y. Hilton role and be the deep field stretcher. Heelman, what do you think about?
Yeah, Alec Pierce he's been moving up the draft boards. Move the Sticks had him as a day 2 pick, or early day 2 pick, and this is where it is. They kind of had him in Seattle, Kansas City, but this is a good spot. And for a lot of bad landing spots as far as fantasy football implications, it's a pretty decent one. I don't think he's going to jump into your first round or anything like that, but it definitely should help his stock.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Chiefs will be on the clock next. They traded back to this pick. Hartman, if you're the Chiefs and you have that crazy AFC West that is just on their heels, doing everything they possibly can to knock off the king, what do you think they need to do to keep everybody at bay?
I think they just keep doing what they've been doing. They're still the team to beat in that division until somebody beats them. They have the second best record in the NFL the last 3 years. They have Patrick Mahomes. He's locked up for a long time. And, they're a patient team. I think that they, if there's a draft room and a coaching staff and a front office, I trust to do the right things to get better without making crazy moves. I mean, the fact that they let Tyreek Hill go because they realized they couldn't pay him and pay Mahomes and then be able to pay anyone else. I know everyone's chasing him and everyone in that division's getting better, but I still think that they just need to keep doing what they've been doing until someone gets better than them.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And when you have Patrick Mahomes and you got Andy Reid and you have all the other talent they have there, you know what? You can still say you have just as good of a shot as anybody to win a division. I do want to point out, though, Hartman is wearing one of our giveaways, and we are doing another one right now as we speak. We're giving away a Jonathan Taylor jersey as I get it up here on the screen for everybody. Look, Patriot fans especially, I'm talking to you right now. If you need to be cheered up because you've had a rough draft weekend, we're trying to give away this Jonathan Taylor jersey to do just that. All you got to do is follow Belly Up Sports on Twitter, retweet it. It's pinned to the top. Register on Pristine Auction. Use the promo code BELLY at sign up. That will get you into the tournament, and we will select a winner at 8 p.m. on Monday, May 2nd, this upcoming Monday, for a Jonathan Taylor giveaway, just to lift some spirits, because there's always people that are going to be upset after the draft, and I can't think of anybody more so the Patriots right now. Go ahead.
And Dan, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to mention it. I think I won the first raffle that you guys did.
Yes,
with
correct.
Pristine. It's a Javonte Williams autographed jersey, and came in the mail, and I'm very psyched to have it and to wear it tonight. So thank you guys again for running those raffles.
Oh, and thank you for participating in it. All right, so we know the Colts are going to take Alec Pierce here. We're getting back to the Kansas City Chiefs. After them comes up the Arizona Cardinals. And we haven't seen the Cardinals really be able to pick yet because they traded for Marquise Brown there in the first round. So, Chris, let's get to you. You're the Cardinals now. You're set at wide receiver. I got to think they're going to address defense, or you think maybe they go offensive line?
I mean, I think they could use both, but I think the guy that should be for one of these two teams should be Travis Jones. I think this is a guy that clearly is going to be a run stopper in the NFL. I think he can be a 3-down guy as well. He tested really well at Senior Bowl, I should say. A guy that I love going into this draft. He was borderline first rounder. So I think this is a guy for either team. The next two teams would definitely benefit because both teams kind of need to stop the run. I think he'd be a great guy to be able to draft for either one of those.
Heelman, do you have a comment right now? Let's think about this for a second. Outside of Kenny Pickett, all of the quarterbacks are continuing to fall. This is what I wanted to see because I didn't think any of these quarterbacks were really all that good, but because they're quarterbacks, they always get pumped up unnecessarily. But what's your reaction now? We're looking at this, and we're at pick 55. We're at pick 54. Malik Willis is still on the board. Desmond Ritter's still on the board. Matt Corral's still on the board. Where are these guys going to go?
Yeah, I'm looking at the board myself and going, Minnesota just signed Cousins to an extension. They just drafted Mon. Did they go and dip into the pool again? I don't think so. Atlanta, they're just falling into their lap, the value. So maybe they take somebody. And, Tampa Bay, they got Kyle Trask behind, and Gabbert behind Brady. But, he's not going to play forever, we don't think. There's not a lot of spots for quarterbacks. And then there's a lot of Carolina and Baker Mayfield news that's going on. So they're the 2 or 3 times they've said it just keeps heating up as far as Baker to Carolina.
Let me touch on that right now because there's a few rumors running around. There's nothing to actually report as of this moment. We got a couple of them. So one is that supposedly Carolina is talking to Cleveland right now about Baker Mayfield. The other one is that the Honey Badger might be getting into contract negotiations with the Philadelphia Eagles. So those are the 2 things that are getting floated around as we speak. Nothing to report on yet, but that's being talked about pretty seriously by a lot of guys that I normally trust to break news from that standpoint. So I just wanted to kind of bring that in to the conversation here. So while we're waiting for Arizona to kind of get on the clock, I haven't been able to talk to you guys yet tonight. So let's start with Hartman. Hartman, what's been your favorite pick so far this evening?
This evening?
This evening.
That's a good question. There are a few that I liked. I liked the John Mechie pick.
Okay.
And there were a couple right at the beginning of the round. And a couple that there's still a couple players. I know this wasn't the question you asked, but I'm trying to figure out what's happened to Nakobe Dean, and why he's still on the board. I mean, I think a lot of people were expecting him to be one of the first maybe 5-6 names that we heard tonight, maybe top 10 names anyway, and we still haven't heard his name. So I'm just curious if there's a reason that he's fallen this far, and if there's a likely landing spot for him soon, and what the rest of you think about that.
Well, Chris, I won my bet. So Trey McBride would be over 46.5, and he comes off the board here to the Arizona Cardinals. Surprising that because they brought back Zach Ertz, they go Trey McBride, but we know Zach Ertz seems like he is he's 27 going on 57 with the way he runs. Feels like at least that way. So go ahead, Chris. What's your reaction?
So they brought back Max Williams as well, though. So it's a little bit surprising to me. The team that's wants to be a 4-receiver offense is investing so much draft capital in tight ends. I love McBride. I think he's a bad fit for the team. I think he definitely could be productive. It just is very much kind of eye-opening. You're adding all those weapons for Kyler Murray. Great. Who's going to pass protect for him? Who's going to open a hole to that running game? And who's going to stop anybody on that defense? That team fell apart once that defense got exposed and J.J. Watt went down. They don't have Chandler Jones wasn't super happy with his contract last year. So I think you look at all the different things on this team. This team really could have used other pieces. McBride, while I love his potential, I think he's a really good player. I just don't understand kind of the fit in a sense and why they're wasting kind of capital for a guy that they already basically are trying to scheme out of their offense. A position, I should say, trying to scheme out of their offense.
Well, I think the reason is, unlike the Packers, when their quarterback complains, they just give him whatever he wants as much as they possibly can, and the Packers do just the complete opposite. I think that's what we're seeing. Like, Ari Murray, you're going to have nothing to say, sign our contract on the dotted line, but we got the Chiefs pick in here too. Chiefs looking for their Tyreek Hill replacement. They're going with Sky Moore. So we actually got some fantasy stuff to talk about here along with the fits. Now, I don't think he is Tyreek Hill. Do not get me twisted. But, Heelman, what's your immediate reaction to this?
I love it. Sky Moore, I don't know why he was falling, but this is a great spot for him. He's definitely going to be someone that people are buzzing around on Twitter about because he's everyone's a big Sky Moore fan. Then he gets a good landing spot, gets a good quarterback.
What's your reaction, Hartman? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the other picks I really liked in this round was the Christian Watson pick by Green Bay, and the fact that they moved up to get him with the success they've had with taking receivers in the second round, plus his size speed combo. And just, if you're thinking about this from a fantasy perspective, any rookie receiver that's getting paired with either Rodgers or Mahomes, you got to at least sort of look at the situation and think about, that kind of landing spot for a receiver, and especially with the departures on those offenses and the ability to step into a role where, even as rookies, they're likely to see a lot of playing time. is very intriguing, I think. And I think that's true for both of these guys. And I also was wondering when Sky Moore's name was going to be called. He's another guy I kind of expected to hear in the first half of this round. So I think this is a nice pickup for Kansas City.
Chris, we talked about Sky Moore on our show last week, and this is about the range of where we had him going. I have him pegged mostly as a slot type of receiver. They sign guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling to be the deep threat. We know they have Travis Kelce. They have to get the guy who's going to get Kelce. It's oddly enough, Travis Kelce was actually on the NFL draft talking about this yesterday. They got to figure out who's going to be that guy to get that 7 yards and move the chains. This could be that guy in that scheme.
I mean, he could. I mean, they had Robinson, they had Pringle, they have other. He's definitely upgraded over those guys. But fantasy-wise, a lot of people were excited about Dwayne Eskridge and his, where he was going to do when he got to the NFL. I think this could, you have DK and Tyler Lockett necessarily compete with. But I don't like Sky Moore necessarily going to come in and, rock the world fantasy-wise right off the bat. They did add Juju, who I think is probably going to play the slot receiver top number. I think Sky Moore is definitely better to serve that. And I think that you have a guy like Hardman, you have a guy like MVS. These guys are all more speedsters. He's another speedster, but I think you need somebody who's going to kind of be a alpha if you're going to upgrade and want fantasy. And I don't think he's necessarily that guy. So I don't love him, this year coming up fantasy. Maybe down the road, but right now is not a guy I have necessarily on my fantasy radar that high.
And you know what? That's fair because it's hard to. We have not seen too many slot receiver types come out and be successful fantasy wise that first immediate year in rookie. Hillman, you're shaking your head. Yes, you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, there's a lot of mouths to feed in Kansas City, and it was Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. It wasn't like there was always another person, and we got Juju there. I think Pringle got arrested, so I don't know what's going on with him, but they got MVS. It might take a little while, so I think what Chris said in regards to maybe not year one being a fantasy star, but I think he's someone that you're going to want to pick up in your dynasty leagues.
So, Harmon, I know your pigskin papers, Dallas Cowboys, going to be on the clock here. What do you want them to not do for your benefit?
For Dallas, I want them to not get better. I'm also pretty partial to the Giants, which they've always drafted very well with offensive line. And they've already started to address that in this draft. They killed it with Micah Parsons last year. Amari Cooper's gone, and I think they'll at some point address their receiver room in this draft. But I don't want to see Dallas get better, but I'm sure they'll make a pick here that's someone that's going to help their team. We're still in it's funny. I went back and looked at picks from 2 years ago, the kind of players that tend to fall in this or can fall in this part of a draft. And this is who went 51 to 55 2 drafts ago. Speaking of the Cowboys, Trayvon Diggs was the 51st pick. And then Cam Akers went to the Rams 52nd. Jalen Hurts went to the Eagles 53. AJ Epinesa went 54. And then J.K. Dobbins went 55th. And then Raekwon Davis went to the Dolphins 56. That's a pretty impressive run. And so it's worth bearing that in mind. We all focus so much on the first round of the draft, but you're still getting guys now that you hope are going to be starters on your team. And I think Dallas has traditionally done very well on day 2 and even day 3. I mean, obviously Dak Prescott is the one that really comes to mind, but they've been a pretty good team in this section of the draft historically.
Pick is in, and it's Sam Williams going with the defensive end pass rusher from Ole Miss. This was a need for them. I don't know if this is the top guy on your guys' board for this position at this point. It wasn't for me, but Hartman, you were just talking about the Cowboys and what they would do. So what's your reaction to the actual pick here?
They have had some departures in their pass rush. They've got Micah Parsons. I mean, I think this probably projects as a rotational player initially. But I did not have him. I think there's still some other some other edges I had ahead of him. But I think they usually know what they're doing, so I'm mistrustful of them.
Sorry about that, but we got a trade in here, and the Bills are trading their 57th pick to the Bucks. Before they make that pick, we're going to have to say goodbye to you guys. I'm so happy that you guys came on. Hartman, where can we follow you at, and what are you working on next? Everybody should go ahead and check out.
Yeah, my blog is called Pigskin Papers, and it's on Twitter. I'm at Pigskin Papers. It's www.thepigSkinPapers.com, and I write about the NFL and also fantasy football. My off-season content is probably on the once to twice a week basis, and then during the season, I'm usually posting 2 to 3 articles per week, recapping. Usually do kind of a start-sit, and I do a waiver wire column every week.
Excellent. Heelman, where can we follow you and check you out, man?
All right, you can find me at Dynasty Dorks on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and I'm also the content director for Gridiron Ratings. Check our rookie guide out for IDP and offensive rankings, gridironratings.com.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for coming on. We're going to be talking to you real soon again, I am sure. Everyone, stay tuned here with the NFL Draft by Belly Up Sports and the MD's Fantasy Football Show. We'll take a quick break, get our next slate of guests. I can't even talk anymore. Our next slate of guests in. We'll be back right after this.
Get your party started with the Kong Beer Bong. You get a can cooler for those chilled, laid-back get-togethers, and a built-in beer bong for when things start to get a little wild. It's portable and ready to party no matter where you are in the world. It's perfect for any holiday event. And the party doesn't stop there. They have an assortment of fun party accessories to take your party to the next level. Be the most wanted party animal for any get-together with the Kong Beer Bong. Visit bellyupsports.com today. Click our partners tab. All shipments in America are free.
We introduce you guys with a pick made by the Bucks. They traded up and got Luke Godecki, addressing a need, a guy who played guard and or tackle on that offensive line. Before we get into the analysis of this all, let's introduce our new guest. Andrew's back again. Thank you, Andrew, for coming right on back. We got Kelsey from High Low Sports. How's it going, bud?
Man, doing good. Enjoying the draft.
Good. I'm glad you're here. And we got Brian Scott from the Injured List podcast. Brian, how you doing?
I'm good. What a draft this year, huh, guys?
It's always insane. There's always a lot to talk about afterwards, and this is why I love the NFL draft. But let's react. Chris, I feel like I haven't heard your voice in a while. You guys kept taking it up from you. What is your reaction to this pick?
What pick?
The Bucks taking Luke Godecki. That's why I haven't heard your voice in a while. You're off in Neverland.
Well, I'm honestly, I was still thinking about Andrew and thinking about his Thornton reaction to probably just the draft of the Patriots after watching his.
He just came back on the
ball yesterday. I can only imagine what he's probably feeling right now. But yeah, this is a guy that I don't think it should, a little bit of a reach in my opinion where he's going. A guy that's definitely got a little bit more strength and stronger to be an NFL starter. I do think he's going to profile as a guard. I don't like him at tackle. I think he's too slow getting out of his stance. But a guy is definitely a technically sound guy, a guy who does, plays in his frame in a sense. Doesn't do anything extra. I feel like this is kind of an average starter in the NFL. So that's why I'm not necessarily excited about it. But I understand the Tampa Bay, keep Tom Brady upright and not pressure up the middle is kind of the key for them. So I understand why they're kind of investing and double downing on that.
Well, that's why I think Luke Godecki is an interesting pick, because if he plays the guard position, what's something we've always talked about with Tom Brady? If you pressure him up the middle, he's in trouble. His best asset is his pass protection skills. Atlanta's about to come up. Is this where Malik Willis comes off the board, Kelsey?
Man, I have been hoping for Malik Willis to go off the board at some point in time. Like, at this point in time, what am I missing from watching Malik Willis' tape is my big question. And look, if you're Atlanta, absolutely take him because you can sit him behind a skill set that is basically identical to his, and you give him an extra year just to get ready. You get Drake London a year to get going. I mean, Mariota is more than capable for handling a year of this offense, but I think long term we're going to see a replacement there, and I would love to see Malik Willis go to Atlanta. I mean, they deserve something at least to happen for them.
They already have the weapons, right? They spent the first round pick on Drake London. You have Kyle Pitts. Maybe in 2023 you have Calvin Ridley again if he manages not to gamble while he's sitting on his couch for the next season. We'll see what happens there. But they do have some weapons there heading into Atlanta.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen.
It's amazing, right? Like, how do you have so many weapons in Atlanta and you're just still not able to win a game? It's always been fascinating with Atlanta just blowing it in any sort of important situation.
Organizational.
Hey, you can't blame Art Blank. Art Blank does everything for the fans. That man is a fan friendly owner, but unfortunately his team not so much.
All right, and the pick is in. Atlanta goes linebacker to go with Troy Anderson out of Montana State. I want to say this. This is too high for Troy Anderson, but I'm very intrigued by Troy Anderson. Now, he didn't play against top-level competition or anything like that, but he's got a size and an athletic skill set that is incredibly intriguing if you're able to develop the technical aspect of his game. But again, that's why he doesn't belong in the second round, because you're taking guys that you need to be a little bit more polished to actually play for, especially for a team like Atlanta. They need guys to come in and play right away. I don't think this was the right pick, but Andrew, am I right or wrong here?
I definitely agree that it's too high, but it is rare for 243 6'4" to have his speed at the linebacker position, to be able to go lateral and be able to, probably get to the edges, cover the flats on some runs that go outside. It does make sense for what Atlanta's looking for here. But it does, I'm still just shocked they still haven't taken. This is now their second opportunity to take Malik Willis at a spot where it makes sense.
We want Bryce Young next year.
And they're just not doing it. So maybe, are they, especially with this pick now, are they telling us that they are looking deeper into beyond this year? Are they looking to? They're fine developing guys, and maybe they don't believe that Malik Willis is the long term answer.
I mean, I don't think he is anyway, so I wouldn't be disagreeing with them there if that in fact was the case. I want to get Brian on here now. Brian, like I said, he's got the Injured List podcast. He specializes in all these things, and I want to ask him about Devin Ojabu. He went to the Baltimore Ravens. Now, with him coming off the Achilles injury, what's your assessment on that type of injury for a edge rusher?
It's pretty significant, and when you watch the film of him being drafted, if you notice, he never stood up. And my guess is because he actually has had surgery already to repair that Achilles. So you're looking at probably 9 months before he's actually cleared to get in there and do any high impact hitting or football activities. And that's really what dropped him down in this draft and sent him into the second round. Otherwise, he would have been a top 10 pick, which blows my mind as to why he was even having a pro day in the first place, because this is what ends up happening. Because, he was probably having some type of inflammation or problems with that tendon throughout the season. And then because he didn't have enough time to rest and started getting ready for whatever reason for this pro day, this is what you end up with. You end up with a ruptured Achilles tendon, and now you're recovering for basically 9 months of the season almost. And he's probably not going to be available for much of the year, if at all. And it'd be foolish, I think, to throw him in there without making sure he's super, super recovered. So I wouldn't expect even see him suit up this year if he's had surgery to repair that tendon.
Chris, let's play that scenario out real quick. If that's going to be the case and the Ravens are a team that's, even though they didn't make the playoffs, trying to get back to a Super Bowl, do you think it was smart of them to, in a second round, to take a player that they may have to redshirt?
I think it's very smart of them. I think what we see the Ravens doing is getting back to the Raven ways. They got a playmaker in the second level now in the secondary. They added, a center. We want a lot more Shiganda, his impact he had for the Ravens, and now they have a pass rusher. The Ravens had really struggled for pass rush for the last couple of years. They've tried different guys they've thrown out there. If they can get a guy who is top 10 talent, even if you redshirt him, pairing with the rest of that defense they have in place, with the ball hawks they have in that secondary, I love the fit, and I love the opportunity for them to kind of be a next level defense moving forward versus just a good defense.
All right, so I got to get to the Vikings pick. They go offensive guard here. They go with Ed Ingram, but more of a run blocker type of offensive guard. So the Vikings getting into the trenches, making sure Dalvin Cook has room to run. Kevin O'Connell needs to run his offense. Kelsey, what's your immediate reaction?
I mean, it makes sense. You have a all-world back there in Dalvin Cook, and you got to just keep him clean as much as you can. So just go get him some run blocking. It's that simple. Kirk Cousins, he's a play action type of guy anyways. So you need to sell that run. No better person to sell that run than a run blocker himself. Look, Ed Ingram may be purely a run blocker. He's not bad in pass blocking by any means. He is. I graded him basically average across the board, NFL average. It's not bad, but he is definitely a much better run blocker. But on a team in Minnesota where you have to block for 0.7 seconds in a pass situation just because he's going to throw it up to Justin Jefferson 50 yards, you'll be okay.
What do you think, Andrew?
I think there's a theme that we're starting to see here with this draft, and that we can sit here and talk about value and talk about what we think teams are going to take based on who's left on the board. Teams are doing whatever they want to do. They're picking. They're all picking for the position they need, and they're just because look, Ingram was someone who was probably like a mid to late fourth round guy, and so this feels like a big reach. But I feel like when it comes to the offensive line so far this draft, at least in this round, there's been quite a few reaches we've been seeing. So I think we're just seeing a trend here where they're not really thinking about value. They're just taking their guy and they're confident in it.
Brian, what's your reaction to that? I mean, there's always been that debate of do you draft for need or do you draft for value? Where do you come on that side of the argument?
So I tend to look at the draft through a little bit different lens, given my background. The whole purpose, in my opinion, and based on my experience in sports medicine, orthopedics over the years, is that the draft is a way to kind of go car shopping, right? And not to minuscule these players and make them compare them to cars, but are you looking for a new car, right, fresh off the lot, with all this potential and all these great, options? Or are you willing to kind of settle for something that may be pre-owned or used a little bit? And when you look at some of these players who've dropped in the second round, they're going for need, and they're going for guys that probably would have been gone already. So if you find a good used car on the lot that's got maybe a low mileage, but maybe has a few dings in the bumper or something, then sometimes you're willing to take a risk. And, that's what we're seeing with guys like Ojabu. There's a bunch of other guys in this draft that have been injured, dating back to last year, even the year before, who've fallen down the list, and some guys who've been taken very high. And to be honest, that's what I look at when I take a look at the draft and I watch the draft. I kind of try to feel out what they're looking for.
Sorry to cut you off there, but the Bengals just made a move up to take the Buffalo Bills pick at 60. The Bengals gave up 63 and 209 to move up 3 spots here. So we'll see exactly what direction they're going to head in. Chris, what do you think the Bengals are trying to move up here? Just a couple of spots to make sure they grab.
I mean, I would think they're probably looking to move up to get defense, but I'm going to keep saying his name until he comes off the board. My boy Daniel Fioli would make a fantastic pick for them. They passed him.
I want Daniel Fioli.
Well, I do, but I do want him. But I also want to point out, this is the team that got kind of badgered last year by, one of our hosts included, that Jamar Chase, should have been their pick. They should have took Perry Sewell with their pick. And I think they continue to have need at the offensive line position, particularly at the tackle position. I don't think Jonah Williams is a starting tackle. I don't like Riley Reif. So I think there's 2 guys that you could definitely replace with adding a top-tier tackle, in my opinion.
Or a cornerback? Is that what you're going to say?
Well, like I said defense to begin with. That's what I thought they were going to trade up for. I didn't. That's what I would do, but I thought that they would probably trade up for it. A guy that I think, balanced corner. We talked about their need before earlier in the draft. They took a safety. This is another guy that kind of to add that secondary.
They've attacked secondary twice now. They drafted Daxton Hill in the first round. So Bengals are saying to themselves, look, we're going to put up a bunch of points. We have the offense to do it. Let's make sure we're in position to limit the other team when they're building their team to be up by 2 scores after the first quarter. We've seen that be successful in the past. We've seen the Chiefs win the Super Bowl being that kind of defense. It looks to me that's what the Bengals are trying to do. Now, whether you fall on the side of whether Britt is the next guy, I have my questions about Britt myself. There's been too many times where I've seen that guy look into the backfield on a double move and get toasted over the top. and he reminds me of Eli Apple. So I don't know how much.
It's not a comparison you want.
Don't know how much
we
I
roast
love
Eli
that
Apple enough
idea.
on the Super Bowl?
Never. You know what? It would have been fine had he gone away, but the Bengals had to bring him back. So now we just need a whole new list of jokes for 2022. But he has his air replacement, so it's okay. They're going to have at least one corner on the backside who's going to be faked out by a double move every single time and take it to the house.
That's like Cincinnati tradition, though. I think that's a Cincinnati tradition, though. They've always had that one corner position. Has always been horrible.
Hey, guess who's on the clock, guys?
Uh-oh.
Finally.
The 49ers.
Yeah. It's a
Is there a running back on the board still, Dan, that we're going to get?
If they take Isaiah Spiller, I would shoot myself next to Andrew. We can go have a suicide party.
Could they go Malik Willis here?
Oh, boy.
That would be great.
Just blow every 49ers fan's minds if you go Malik Willis here, or any quarterback for that matter.
That would be utterly fantastic. Look, as far as our needs, I say it's a long laundry list of things that we need to go with. The biggest one for me would be interior offensive line here at this standpoint. Our offensive line is getting older. When Trent Williams gets hurt, I'm tired of having to watch George Kittle be a glorified tackle whenever that happens. He's not allowed to be used in the passing game when that comes out to fruition. But they also need things on the defensive side of the ball. I am not a buyer in that the signing of Tre'Davious Ward somehow addresses the cornerback issue and improves it in any kind of capacity. So multiple ways they could go here. We'll see exactly what happens. After that, Kansas City comes up again. So Kansas City, they address Sky Moore with their offense as their quote-unquote Tyreek Hill-ish replacement. They've gone with the secondary. They've gone with the pass rusher. Where does Kansas City go trying to keep up with that AFC West, Kelsey?
Man, I think you have to go defense, and I really honestly keep looking at – there's a man on the board that I think we all had ranked top 20 in this draft, if not higher. And I'm still looking at him just wondering when he's going to go. And he's a little undersized, but he actually fits the role really well for Kansas City. That's Nakobe Dean. Look, need a guy go to sideline. You need a guy who can run your defense. Whatever reason he's sliding, stop it now. Just pick him and solve all your problems. I know you took Bolden last year, but you need a guy who's a little faster to play alongside him, especially since they come out in a lot of nickel. You're going to have to help out your defense, and Nakobe Dean has all the speed in the world to help out that defense in a nickel package.
Don't worry, I'm not shaking my head at you. Because we always need more defensive ends. The 49ers take Drake Jackson. It's the only position we're allowed to draft in the draft, I think, is defensive end on top of defensive end on top of defensive end. And it's Drake Jackson. Is Drake Jackson at that? Yeah, defensive tackle occasionally. Yeah, that's true too. This is a guy I hate this guy. I hate Drake Jackson. Like,
really?
I cannot stand Drake. So he can only move forward. He has no wiggle whatsoever. If he can't beat you off of his initial pop in his bull rush, he's got nothing to fall back on. This was somebody who I thought was going to get drafted way too high by somebody else anyway, because he only has one skill set to begin with. And I think he's about 20 pounds undersized what he really needs to be. What he really needs to be is a penetrating 3 technique, but he's about 20 pounds too light for that. I don't think this guy is a 5 technique or a pass rushing edge. But go ahead, Chris. Currently, you disagree.
I love Drake Jackson, so I'm kind of surprised.
I don't know what you were watching.
I think a guy that's good. It hasn't really been utilized properly what he can do. He's asked to do a lot in USC. He has to play outside linebacker. He has to play inside, outside. A guy that has a multiple skill set. And I think when he's asked to actually just be a pass rusher, he has some of the best pass rushing ability in this draft class, in my opinion. So when you look at a guy that brings some explosiveness off the edge, was fantastic measurables, I think that this is a guy that has a lot of upside. He's going to get better in the pros. The 49ers don't love the fit necessarily, but I really love Drake Jackson. He's a guy I actually had in my top 25.
Not only is he not even somebody that I like, but he gets compared most commonly to a linebacker, not a defensive end, in Eli Harold. That is his most common comp. That's not a pass rusher. You guys didn't see it, but I just threw my paperwork off the table because I was so pissed off at it. I mean, Brian, I'd love to get your take on this.
I'm gonna defer. All I will say is this: when it comes to these guys, I think too much goes into the emphasis about size and stuff like that. Don't forget, a lot of these guys, man, are raw, and if they can get put up with the right coach in the right system, you'd be surprised. I mean, if they got the athletic traits, the physical build, despite their height, I think they can make significant improvement in the NFL. You were talking about top level coaches, best of the best. It's a big difference from college to the pros, even from high school to the college level. So I think a lot of it's overblown with the media and the hype around the combine and the draft. Give these guys a chance, man. You'll be surprised. And I think that's why the NFL draft is so intriguing compared to some of the other drafts. You can find some superstars round 2s and round 3, even deep into the draft, even in like round 6 and stuff. I mean, you can find some guys that are going to contribute in some way.
You have more faith in my coaching staff developing guys than I do.
Well, all I know is I'm a New York guy, and I'm a Giant fan, and I'm happy this year because we did a great job. And I'm glad that they got rid of Eli Apple a few years ago when they had the opportunity because he was miserable.
Everybody should get rid of Eli Apple when they have the opportunity.
Thank God he's gone. All right, so the Chiefs are back up on the board. I agree with Kelsey's assessment that Nakobe Dean would make a lot of sense for them because he fits what Steve Spagnuolo generally looks for out of his linebackers on a defense anyway. He wants guys from sideline to sideline range and, generally speaking, work really well in blitz packages, in particular with stunts. So that would actually work out pretty well if that was the pick here. We'll see exactly what it'll be probably within the next few minutes or so. The second round is starting to fly off the board. It usually starts to pick up when we get towards the late second round, third round, few less trades. Guys pretty much already know what they want to do. So we'll see exactly what comes on. But the Buffalo Bills come on after that. They've been consistently trading down this entire draft. But there are also a team that they don't really need a whole lot of stuff to make their next run. The overtime rules were changed for their benefit. So what does Buffalo need to do, Andrew, to get back to where they were and get over the hump this time?
So real fast, I do want to touch on Kansas City real fast because I do have a wild card here. I do not disagree with Kelsey on Nakobe Dean at all. It does make sense. But I do think something that's being undercovered and desired here for Kansas City is more offensive line help. I think a big part of their downfall last year was the amount that, look, we all know. Before you put Abraham,
you can finish your thought.
Doesn't matter anymore. Never mind. I was gonna say Abraham Lucas would have been a good fit for them. Just a little something they could go, but maybe they can get him later. But never mind.
They've addressed the safety position when losing the Honey Badger. I like Brian Cook quite a bit. I don't know if I liked him this high, but I do like Brian Cook's skill set, what he brings, a bigger type of safety. He can kind of play in the box or he can drop back out. I like his skill set, but I did have him more as a third-round grade, maybe even a borderline fourth-round grade. Didn't necessarily have him in the second round, but the Chiefs have done a lot to address the secondary, recognizing that defense is going to have to get better if they're going to be able to continue to stay up top in first place. But, Chris, what's your reaction to this pick?
I like the player. I don't like the fit. They took Thornton Hill last year. They had to read this for offseason, so they had to address the safety position with the Honey Badger. This guy, to me, as you talked about, is best kind of playing in that box. That's what Thorndale's the best at. So I don't know what you're going to do playing three safeties out there. And they lost Sorensen. Maybe they're trying to go back to that idea that we're going to play three safeties, and then one of that guy's going to be a glorified linebacker in a sense. But I think that they kind of saw last couple of years, I would hope so, that when he was out there, he's basically a pass coverage casualty that allowed guys to have big plays constantly. So I don't like this. I like the player, don't like the pick.
So I'll tell you somebody else who has not picked yet will be coming up very, very soon. The Denver Broncos at pick 64. They got Russell Wilson. They're big winners of that trade block this year. They have Cortland Sutton in there. Jerry Jeudy's on his way back. Here's a question that just popped in my head for Brian. How about KJ Hamler? What do you think he's going to be at in his recovery?
Just tell me what his injury was, and I'll be able to tell you.
I'm pretty sure it was an Achilles, right, guys? Was Achilles or an ACL?
Yeah, definitely lower leg injury.
So, I mean, ACLs, I mean, you look at a guy like Jameson Williams. Apparently, he had an isolated ACL tear. So, guys like him, very lucky because that's not always the case. Straightforward recovery, 7 to 9 months, he'll be back on the field. You look at guys like OBJ, 2 years, less than 2 years after tearing his ACL and having surgery, his career is going to be completely altered from what it used to be. He's going to have to change his way of play. He's not going to be the same guy. So anywhere in between is where kind of everybody else falls. Achilles injuries, like I said earlier, with Ajabu, you're looking at 7 to 9 months before you're back on the field doing any type of activity after surgery. But the thing is, it really affects those guys who were on the defensive side, I think, more so than the offensive side, because you have to backpedal, you have to plant, push off that Achilles, and that's usually when the injuries occurs, during that eccentric phase of loading the muscle. And that is when guys are most apprehensive and most scared about re-injuring themselves. So it takes a long time, not just physically to recover from those injuries, but mentally as well. So until those guys get over that mental hurdle, they can sometimes be a year before they're kind of really back to where they were. So, take that for what it's worth when you assess these guys and when you're looking at your picks. But, it's those are all kind of average answers. It's hard to kind of predict each individual and how they're going to respond. Of course, there's outliers, guys that bounce back way sooner than they should. And then there's guys that take a lot longer than they probably should. You just got to, go with the averages and hope that you pick the guy that can maybe get on the outlier side.
James Cook goes to the Buffalo Bills. I love this pick. I love this pick. My face is gleaming from a fantasy standpoint. First of all, I wanted James Cook to fall in a situation where he would get the opportunity to be a fantasy star. If he could just put 10 pounds on, you can't tell me why he's not his brother. He moves very similarly. I think he is a little bit faster than Dalvin Cook is. He's got to get a little bit better in pass protection to be able to play early on. But what I foresee early on, Chris, you can tell me if I'm wrong here or not, but I see him and Devin Singletary in a nice 1-2 punch platoon matched up with an offense that's going to score a lot of points, and Cook's going to be allowed to be a home run threat out of that backfield. What do you think?
That part I agree with. I don't agree that he's as good as his brother. You added 10 pounds. But I do agree that in this offense, he could clearly be that pass-catching guy out of the backfield. Josh Allen's kind of security blanket. So I think, obviously, PPR leagues, especially full-point PPR leagues, he does look at a huge value. I think you're going to kind of remains to be seen how little the value will be for the other leagues of standard, for example, because you still have Singletary there, you still have Zach Moss there, and those guys, when they weren't featured necessarily, struggled to kind of be fantasy relevant. So you need kind of one of those guys to kind of step up, or two of those guys to be the key guys versus them constantly rotating different guys. Did they bring Duke Johnson in as well? So it's going to be interesting. We had Matt Breida kind of steal some carries last year. That was frustrating for a lot of fantasy owners. So for me, that's where you're kind of looking at what is the kind of tandem. Is it just a 1-2 punch? I love it. If it's a 1-2-3 punch, I don't love it.
What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, look, I couldn't agree. I like the fit of James Cook in this offense. I think it's exactly what the Bills needed, considering what they have in Moss and Breida. I don't think Breida's still there, but what they have in Singletary. I think we've all lost faith in Singletary at this point. So I think James Cook's style fits well here. And I think what they were doing with all this, I think they see the depth in the offensive line in this draft, and I think they were compiling some extra picks later in the draft to where they're gonna pretty much from here on out. I think they're just gonna be stacking that offensive line with any guys they can get. I almost thought that they might just go for Dean here because they said, well, he's still there. We might as well add some help here because we know we can get the guys we want later. Because once again, a running back that's still on the board that they definitely could have got later there, is Dameon Pierce. He's one of my favorite running backs in this draft. So it's another guy I thought would have fit well there. So it wouldn't have shocked me if they took a grab like a Dean just because he's there. But I like the fit here of James Cook.
And the Broncos go linebacker with their first pick. Nick Bonito coming off the board here out of Oklahoma. Kelsey, you like this pick?
I love this pick. Nick Bonito, if anybody saw his combine, finished top 5 in every single field drill everything. I mean, he was literally next to Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt, the next best player at the combine. And he needed to. He needed to be that guy for his own draft stock. Don't be surprised if this guy makes Micah Parsons type noise in this next year, because he is going to be – you can line him up anywhere. I mean, literally you can line him up at edge, linebacker, inside, outside. Just let him do what he wants, and he is so fast, so strong to the ball, and he's a great open field tackler, and that's probably one of the more underrated parts of his game, considering he's considered an edge linebacker. He is a great open field tackler.
I just want to make another comment with the James Cook thing from a fantasy standpoint. Remember, this is second-round draft capital for a running back. even higher than what they paid for Devin Singletary, even higher what they paid for Zach Moss. I'll be curious to see what they do. But Brian, let's go to you. I got to kick you guys off here so we can get to the Bills pick here at 65. Or I'm sorry, the Jacksonville pick here at 65 as we officially go into the third round here to get our next slate of guests in. Brian, where can we follow you at, and what do you have coming up next on the Injured List podcast?
So I usually, during the NFL season, I'll do weekly injury updates, usually on Wednesdays before the Thursday night game, and then heading into the weekend, I'll do some bonus tracks if there's any updates. Now in the off season, I'm kind of just floating around. Maybe bi-weekly I'll put out an episode based on what's going on in the current injury front with any sport, hockey, football, basketball, you name it. I'll cover it. Right now I did some NBA playoff injury updates. You can find me on Twitter at host Brian Scott, on Facebook and Instagram, the Injured List podcast.
Excellent, excellent. Andrew, you back on again tonight or no?
No, this is the last time you guys
the last time. All right, so let everybody know where they got to follow you at and where they're going to see you next.
Yeah, so I'll make it quick because I've said it a couple times now. But at Real Mr. Mallard and at Divots and Pivots, if you like golf, jump on to Divots and Pivots. We're on every Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. on Tiki Live on Belly Up TV, and Belly Up Fantasy Live Dynasty Edition every Sunday morning, 11 o'clock. You can find me there as well. And if you really want to find me in person, you can find me at any Boston cemetery mourning the death of this Patriots draft. So I'll be there. Thank you.
And Kelsey, what's going on with High Low Sports?
Man, we are all over the place as always. We're getting ready for our NBA playoff coverage, and now that the NFL draft is over. But you guys can catch us every Wednesday night. Our new time, because Dan and I just flipped times on Belly Up TV. We'll be at 9 p.m. live every Wednesday night on Belly Up TV going from now on. And cannot wait to get that started. But then May 14th, it's a big day. We're actually going to be teaming up with Top Dog Tailgate, a big Cleveland Browns tailgate, to go to help out City Dogs of Cleveland out in the park in Brea, Ohio. We're going to have a huge picnic, a lot of food, a lot of fans, a lot of fun. So cannot wait for that. That's going to be May 14th. So follow our Twitter and we'll get all that. Follow us on Twitter at high_low_sports.
Very cool. Very cool. Gentlemen, I want to thank you guys all for coming on. Everybody stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break, come back on the other side, and kick off the third round of the NFL Draft. So stay here with the NFL Draft on Belly Up Sports, hosted by the MD's Fantasy Football Show. We'll be back right after this.
So, are you a sports fan? Are you an athlete? Or do you just want to look and feel like one? Well, I got news for you. The outdoors is the ultimate sport, but you can't play unless you can see. Yeet sunglasses provide the gift of high-quality sight in the roughest of environments. From the crashing ocean waves to the high peaks of the mountains, Yeet sunglasses are designed to be the most durable, comfortable, dependable, anti-wear and tear products on the market. Not only are they made with the utmost quality, but they're available at affordable prices for everyone. Go to yeetsofficial.com right now, and use the promo code BELLYUP to save 10% on your next order. That's 10% on anything you order from yeetsofficial.com. What does that cover? Let me tell you. At Yeats Official, we have sunglasses, we have winter goggles, we have fashionable sunglasses. So if you're looking for new eyewear, if you're looking for something that make you have more fun in the sun, go to yeetsofficial.com, use code BELLYUP, save 10% on.
And welcome back, everybody, to the NFL Draft coverage with Belly Up Sports and the MD's Fantasy Football Show. I've been your host for this entire evening, Dan Mader, along with Chris Dahauer here on Belly Up TV. And now joining us to kick off the third round, we have Eric Courts. Is that how you say that?
That's it, Dan. You got it, my man.
All right. From Dynasty Nerds, and we got Phil from Thrills Fantasy Football. Thank you guys so much for coming on. The Jaguars are on the clock. We'll get to their pick in just a second. But I got two fantasy guys finally joining with me and Chris here, so we can shoot it a little bit now. We can really get into it. I want to get your guys' reaction to James Cook, because Chris and I are on a little bit of opposite sides on what that's going to mean moving forward. So, Eric, let's start with you.
You know, man, just doing my thing out here in the Twitter streets, pumping content on Dynasty Nerds. Obviously, rookie draft season's kicking up. Rookie profile season's ending. Didn't mean to blind you guys. Just wanted to show off my new bling from the SmackDown FF League.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Shame some of my friends a little bit.
That's awesome. Well, let me get to the pick here. I don't think I have a graphic for this, guys. We got Luke Fortner, the center, coming from Kentucky, going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they're going offensive line, finally addressing the offensive side of the ball for Trevor Lawrence. So a little bit of protection for them, although talk about a guy playing Kentucky, didn't have the best of competition. Now his best grade is in the pass pro protection area. We'll see what that's able to be. Maybe he can be the next Jason Kelsey for a Doug Peterson-led offense. But there's not a lot of fun to talk about there. So, Phil, what do you think about James Cook in Buffalo?
I am extremely excited about that landing spot. Going into the draft, I had him as my RB3 behind Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. So already I was high on him. A lot of comps to his older brother, Dalvin. Very similar in weight. I believe he's an inch taller than him, and just all around well-rounded, good hands, and I'm ecstatic for that landing spot. And I think he can pretty quickly take over that lead role ahead of Singletary, unless Singletary has a magical third season.
Boy, the Vikings did not waste any time getting their pick in. Brian Asama, he comes in. This guy is a pure coverage linebacker. Some people think maybe he could be a box safety. I don't really buy it. I don't think he has the hips to be able to do that. But, Chris, this is now the Vikings are really paying attention to the defensive side of the ball. Does that shock you with Kevin O'Connell as the head coach now, and he's putting all of his resources there on the other side of the ball?
No, I think that we look at the Vikings where they have the most strength is definitely on the offensive side of the ball. So he doesn't tweak too much on the offensive side. They could add a couple pieces here or there, but what they really needed to upgrade was that defense. Mike's never spent a lot of money the last couple of years trying to upgrade the defense, but a lot of old guys were added to that defense trying to save it. They definitely need to get younger, faster, and I think that's what they're trying to do right now. You see a lot of speed that they've added. You see a lot of guys who can kind of rangy between this guy. This is going to be a team that I think is going to pretty much try to fly around, make big plays based on their speed outside and inside.
Let's kick back to Eric real quick. Eric, was there a guy who is now going to jump up, let's say, your dynasty draft board, or maybe even as a rookie, your 2022 draft boards, based on where they landed, whether it was last night or tonight so far?
Yeah, I mean, Dotson went a little bit higher than I think people had him. I think he's going to have some good opportunity there. I think a lot of people had him more as a second-round pick. But I don't know. Carson Wentz isn't an inspiring, situation for him there. I mean, risers, I don't know how I feel about it. A guy like Tyquan Thornton, that's not on anyone's map. Now he's probably a starting wide receiver, probably starting as a flanker for the Patriots.
God, I hope not.
I'm still like, I don't know I'm a Boston guy, so I'm still recovering. I'm trying to talk myself into it.
We've had so many Patriot fans on between last night and tonight, and you guys have been the most hilarious people to talk to because you guys all want to jump off a bridge, and I don't blame you. The Giants went offensive guard from North Carolina, Joshua Ezedu. So that's a bit of a reach because I had him in the 6th round. I had him nowhere near the 3rd round here. So, and these picks are flying off the board here come the 3rd round. So we're going to be flying through this pretty quickly. But yeah, Chris, I like your eyebrow raised there. You wanna react to that, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, these are back-to-back guys where it's definitely obvious players who are better on the board, in my opinion. And you're basically, copying that Patriot playbook in a sense and taking guys way rounds higher than they should actually be going. So this, to me, is another reach. The Giants started off the draft great yesterday, but kind of reverted back to being the Giants again today because the last couple of picks they've made definitely aren't inspiring.
I told you David Gettleman had to get his say in on the 2nd round. That was part of the deal of him actually being allowed to exit. Hey, these picks are coming in fast and furious. They're coming in fast and furious. Martin Emerson, great pick here by the Cleveland Browns coming off the board. This is great value because this is somebody who I think really does well. Could have been a late 2nd round pick. It was a great physical, jam him at the line, zone type of corner. And yes, they just signed Denzel Ward, but Ward's been somebody who's been banged up quite a bit. We've seen what happens to that secondary if he's not in there, and he could be a guy who can jostle for that back position with Greedy Williams, be able to back those guys up, and now you're solidified even if somebody goes down and gets hurt. Phil, what's your reaction to this pick?
Well, I mean, you can never have too many, high-end cornerbacks. I mean, you saw that last year with the Green Bay Packers, my home team. I mean, you're expecting them to take wide receiver. No, they go ahead and take rookie Eric Stokes from Georgia. And, if you do have a team with a high-profile cornerback already, I think it's a good way to kind of pair them up, and they can learn from that higher-end cornerback pretty easily and pretty quickly.
Oh, what do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, lots of holes on the roster still for Cleveland. So obviously trying to shore up the defense. I'm sure they feel a little bit better about the O with Watson, but I don't know. You got a suspect pass catching core there at best. I don't know. Does this mean Greedy doesn't get a contract next year? I'm not sure. Maybe it's just a depth play for them.
It could be. When we get to the third round, it could be just depth plays. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, I think this is kind of insurance for two players, not just Greedy, but also Delpit. They drafted a couple of years ago. They spent a lot of draft capital the last couple of years, but they've had a lot of guys injured and out of the lineups. Emerson has a talent to actually play a hybrid safety position in the sense he can tackle well. He's a big guy. He's got a good eye for the ball. So he can play on the outside, but he's also a guy you can kind of use in safety situations as well. So I think it's a guy that they kind of, as you alluded to, Dan, with injuries and some of the concerns they've had in the last couple of years defensively, this guy can kind of mask some of those things and help them, hold water. Hold water as they try to continue on the season, so guys get better and healthy again.
All right, so these picks are coming off fast and furious, but Tennessee's going to take their time here on the clock. They've been an interesting team of notes, and I think Vrabel has been crying slowly in a closet somewhere ever since AJ Brown got traded.
I thought I left New England. Why am I back? I'm back there again.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to that. I got Eric. We got Eric and Phil here. Give me both your reactions. give me your fantasy analysis now on AJ Brown as a Philadelphia Eagle. What that means for Devonta Smith. What that means for the Tennessee Titans. What that means for Treylon Burks. What does that mean for Derrick Henry? Go.
Yeah, I'll hop real quick. I mean, I know people are super down on it for AJ Brown. I think it's more of a lateral move. Yeah, he's got more target competition, but I mean, it's not like the Titans were a great offense last year. When Derrick Henry goes down, they had no other weapons. And I think you're going to have a more balanced offense in Philadelphia and some real opportunities for him to perform. He doesn't need a crazy amount of targets. And for Burks, rock it up. I mean, no target competition there. He's going to smash.
Here's my initial instinct about Burks. I'm going to kick it right to you, Phil. If he stays more healthy than AJ Brown, we all got excited. We thought AJ Brown would be a target monster potentially, especially with nobody else around. Julio Jones was flailing out anyway. If he can stay healthier, does he maybe get those targets we thought Brown would get, even though it's a run-first offense? Because he's the last guy left standing. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, Eric, you were spot on. I don't see. I'll start with Eagles first. Jalen Hurts can't perform any worse than he did as a QB, actual NFL perspective. Not fantasy related.
I think we're having some trouble there, Phil, with your connection. I got to go to the pick real quick. We'll come back to you. So the Titans dressed the offensive line with Nicholas Petit-Frere. So something they need to do. This is a guy that is fallen. We thought he'd go a lot higher. He has a great skill set, an all-around skill set, and they need offensive tackle desperately. This helps Derrick Henry, and we can Phil's spinning there. So we'll try to get him back on in just a moment. But Eric, what's your reaction to Nicholas Petit-Frere? Does he give you more confidence for Derrick Henry or this offensive line in general?
Yeah, I mean, solid player, Ohio State guy. They definitely need the line help. He's fallen. I don't know what that's about, but I had him going about 10 picks ago. Yeah, I mean, solid pick for the Titans for sure. They definitely needed to work on that offense after the, poop bag they put out there last year. So I love anything they can do to shore that up and, give Tannehill a little bit of time.
Chris, I mean, going back to Phil. Phil, do we have you now?
I think so, yeah. Sorry about
Okay.
that. Yeah, so I was just saying that AJ Brown can take it to the house on a little slant route. He doesn't need 10, 11 targets per game to do something, fantasy related or just even to help the team at all. Now going to Treylon Burks, will he ever be AJ Brown? I don't know. I don't think he will get to that level, but I can't imagine he won't be a good player. Sure, he'll have some competition now with Robert Woods. Tannehill can sometimes be hit or miss. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out this year.
I mean, I think the question with Burks is, can he play outside? We just don't know. We don't know that he can. He just didn't get to do it at anything at Arkansas.
Yeah, they moved him so around, but he's got the body build. I am not worried about him being able to play outside. Chris, I'm going to kick this to you real quick. So we're getting some news here. Nakobe Dean declined to have surgery on his shoulder, and it's become a red flag for teams. Do you think that is why we're watching him fall and fall and fall?
Yeah, I think it's a twofold thing. You have a guy who's a little bit small as to begin with, so your question is durability because of that, and then add because he has a shoulder a problem, he wasn't addressed. Could this be something that you're kind of limiting his future? We've seen guys drop because of other injury concerns, valid or not. Quite often, that's when once you get kind of that association with you, the NFL GMs kind of look for a reason not to like you. So when a guy's smaller like he is and has this kind of red flag attached to him, I think this is why you're seeing him slide down the way he is.
Yeah, and it's shocking to me. And you kind of have to question, why did you decline that surgery? Did you think it was going to have you in better shape for your pro day? Did you think you were going to be able to play either? Did you think you not need it? More times than not now, if you don't get these surgeries and you come in there, teams don't want to take a guy that they think is going to flail out on them early because of injury risk, especially if there's a red flag this early on. Interesting that he would elect to do that, but it does offer some suggestion as to why we've been watching him fall, because we've been talking about his name quite a bit. And there's a lot of talk about the Panthers trade back into the third round to get a quarterback. They're still talking about trying to get Baker Mayfield, but we do have the Jaguars pick. And the Jaguars go linebacker Chad Muma off the board from Wyoming. Chris, I see you nodding your head. Go ahead, take it away.
I love Chad Muma. Now, I will be one of probably few people on his panels, but I had him rated ahead of Dean. I actually had him second on to Lloyd. This is a guy I think is an absolute playmaker, a guy that can do everything on the field. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler almost day one. It might be so much Luke Kuechly back in the day for Carolina Panthers. This guy can do it all. A guy you can get interceptions, a guy that can tackle, and a guy that can bring in the blitz as well. Nice size. I love him. I don't know what the college he went to. Not worried about that at all. It was awesome in the Senior Bowl, and I think he's going to continue to be a great pro.
Devin Lloyd, who they drafted in the first round yesterday, a lot of top picks going to this defense on the Jacksonville Jaguars side. Phil, can you give me your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, they need all the help they can get. I mean, if they're not going to get it done on offense,
yeah. Phil, sorry, we're still losing it. The connection's still slow there, buddy.
I think it's a good pick, especially with the departing of Joe Schobert last season to the Steelers. He was always kind of that. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I think you're on like a 5 to 10 second delay there, buddy. Keep hanging in though. So Chad Muma, he goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They focus on defensive side of the ball, even though they hired Doug Peterson. We're all asking the question, is the free agency moves they made with Evan Ingram to a one-year contract at $20 million, famously to Christian Kirk, James Robinson, Travis Etienne on the mend? And what is this offense going to look like? You're adding up on defense, but doesn't matter. The defense is going to be on the field the entire time, Eric.
I don't know, man. Let's load up the offense with guys that catch short and intermediate passes over the middle. Like, I'm not sure what the game plan is. I don't think this is how you should be going about developing Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the guy has a deep ball. The field's going to be compressed now. I just don't understand what they're doing there. I mean, and I like Christian Kirk. He can play on the outside. He's got some speed. He can threaten down the perimeter, but
yeah, it's questionable to say the least when you take Trevor Lawrence and He's supposed to be your franchise guy. He's supposed to be the savior of your franchise, and you've done nothing, really. Nothing substantial to actually help the guy out.
Dan, can I ask you a quick question real quick?
Sure.
Does this remind you of a situation that you're close to where the head coach seems to be making some of the calls on offense and the free agent signings, and then the GM seems to be kind of making the picks for the defensive guys? To me, this seems a lot like your 49ers team, where you look at kind of the guys that match up. We complained, off the air a lot, many times about the 49ers always kind of loading up on slot type of receivers that you're kind of pointing out that they have a plethora of in Jacksonville now. And then you look at the 49ers, the draft, always taking defensive ends, always taking some kind of linebacker. Trent Baalke's kind of continued that trend. So it's kind of really interesting to see that. While I don't think it's necessarily the smartest thing to do, it does remind me of something that we've kind of already seen, kind of going, how the kind of GM and coach are kind of marrying their team in a sense where one handles one side, the other one handles the other side.
I can tell you if that continues, Trevor Lawrence could be the most wasted talent we've ever seen in the entire NFL. But on that note, we're going to have to let you guys know and get back to our next slate of guests as we go into pick 71. The Bears are making their pick momentarily. Eric, where can we follow you at, and what kind of content you have coming up, bud?
Yeah, Dynasty content all year round. Tons of C2C, Devy content coming your way. Also, a new podcast that we're starting soon, me and at him, her sports. We're going to be firing up the anger management podcast in the next couple of weeks here. So look for that. I'll pop that on Twitter and promote the heck out of it. And it's always a good time hanging out with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. And Phil, if we can get you, let us know where we can follow you at and what do you got coming up next. Make it quick because your connection's still off.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me. You can find me at TikTok at Thrills Fantasy Football, Instagram at Thrills Fantasy Football, and Twitter. Philip. Going to be doing Dynasty redraft articles next.
I'm going to assume you're done. All right, excellent.
A lot of good year-round content coming up.
And now he's done. Okay, cool. Hey, guys, take it easy. We're going to take a quick break. Get back on the other side with our next slate of guests. Everybody stay tuned to the NFL draft coverage here with the Belly Up Sports and the MD's Fantasy Football Show.
As summer begins to heat up, there's only going to be one way to cool down this season. I know when I hit the golf course, Yeti products keep my drinks cold until I tee it up at the 19th hole. I'm Andrew LeDuc from the Divots and Pivot Show on Belly Up TV. As we get back to normal and get back to the beach, the park, backyard barbecues, and the golf courses, you are going to want to be able to keep your drinks cool. Why not use the best products available for the job? By going to bellyupsports.com and hitting the sponsors tab, you will have access to the best deals that Yeti has to offer. Yeti offers free shipping on orders $20 or more and qualifying orders that can arrive in 2 to 10 business days. They have the best coolers, the best tumblers, and everything else you could possibly need to enjoy life in the summer. So go to bellyupsports.com to get our link to access the best deals available today. And remember, free shipping on qualifying orders. I'm Andrew LeDuc.
The pick was made. We were on the break. The Bears went with wide receiver Velus Jones Jr. out of Tennessee. So before we get reactions to that, I want to welcome in our new slate of guests. Guys, we got Chase Vernon on here at FF Intervention. We got Greg Simback. He's now the Vikings writer for Belly Up Sports. And we got Jake from Jake's Fantasy Football. He's been on the MD's Fantasy Football Show podcast before. Welcome back. How you doing today, fellas? We'll start with Chase there at the top corner.
What's going on, guys? How are we doing tonight? We partying? What's up?
We are doing great. My voice is staying attached for now somehow. Chris and I have managed to do Scott Hansen style. We have not had to go to the bathroom, even though it's been hours on here for the stream. So we've found a way. We have managed. Greg, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I just hope the Vikings don't make any more trades. And I'm wondering if the Bears are ever going to pick up an offensive line.
One of the Bears are going to do a lot of things, because I did not have Velus Jones that high on my board with some of these wide receivers. I much preferred Justin Tolbert or someone to that nature. What do you think, Jake?
That's not a guy I really spent a lot of time looking at. That's
nope,
all I can tell you.
That would be 1,000% correct on that analysis right there. And whenever that happens, I go look at my grade. Like, oh yeah, that's right. That's why I look at time, because I had him in the 7th round. Oh, okay, all right. Well, okay, Chicago, whatever. That's Chris's old team, by the way. Now he denounces them now after the Mr. Trubisky pick. He got fed up with it. He couldn't take it anymore. Chris, what do you think your old team's up to?
I think they're up to their classic Chicago things. I mean, basically taking a receiver that'll probably be out of the league about 2 to 3 years. A guy that's probably 6th or 7th round talent, as you kind of hit it on. Definitely doesn't help Justin Fields get any better right off the bat. And kind of an odd fit on top of it. Not necessarily a guy who's going to balance out what Darnell Mooney brings to the offense in the first place. So I just don't really know what the Bears do. Greg made a great point about the offensive line. Bears definitely needed to address the tackle position or your interior as well. They lost James Daniels. They just seem to kind of forget to block people to actually throw the ball down the field. Justin Fields is not going to be any better right now, after this draft than he was going into it.
Seattle stays away from the quarterback position. They go Abraham Lucas, pass checker, offensive tackle. Definitely a need that they have going with the offensive tackle. I do think he's one of the more pure pass pro guys in this draft, especially you get to later on grades. So I definitely like the pick here. Chase, what's your reaction?
I mean, Abraham Lucas is somebody that you want anchoring that defensive line. It's one of the better offensive tackles you can find, especially round 3. I think I had him as a early round 2 draft prospect over there. So I think it's a good pick. I think it's solid, and I don't see why they wouldn't end up going with that 9 times out of 10.
The Colts didn't waste any time with this pick. Jelani Woods comes off. If there's ever a prototypical Colts pick, this is it. Taking Jelani Woods, taking yet another tight end. But Jake, this is one of the guys I loved as a sleeper for Dynasty football. And because you're talking about Mo Alley-Cox, got the contract extension, Jack Doyle retired, this is somebody who has more of a pass-catching skill set than I believe he gets credit for, especially in the red zone. What do you think about him and his dynasty value now that he has 3rd-round draft capital?
Well, of course, Kylan Granson is still there, so I expect him to be, worked into the offense sooner. I actually thought Kylan Granson would get some work last year, but that would lead me to believe they're probably going to do the same kind of thing here with Jelani Woods is, ease into the offense. Not every fantasy relevant tight end is an instant impact right away as a rookie. He might take a little time. So if this ends up being a guy that you pick, be patient with him, and especially know that Colts offense likes to have 2 tight ends and likes to use both of them.
Just to go back to the Bears pick real quick, I've meant to mention this and I forgot. Velus Jones, guys, is 25 years old already as a rookie. So just to put some more, padding on the cake there. I mean, Greg, you must like this watching the Bears implode. I think the Packers kind of imploded to some degree. The Lions did good things, but the Lions aren't on your level yet.
Now, the Lions have done some good things in this draft, but I am enjoying watching the Bears draft. But I'm just waiting for the next trade. And I'm also waiting for Big Daniel Falale for the Gophers to get picked.
Oh, well, you've been watching the show because that's been Chris has been yakking my ear off about Daniel Falale all night.
He's raw, but he's going to be good. And he's a big man.
He is a big man. If you guys don't know, if you're watching this and you're not sure who we're talking about, he's the 6'8", 380-pound behemoth outside tackle. I don't know if I've ever – and what I give him credit for, too, is that he's one of these, like, I don't know if he actually is Samoan, but he's one of those guys that, like, he could be that big. He can still move at 6'8", 380.
Australian rugby player. That's his background.
Yeah.
Nah, he's a really agile guy, actually. He just doesn't have a lot of football experience. He started I think, like a senior in high school or junior in high school.
Yeah, like 4 years ago. Started playing organized football.
Yeah.
And a guy that has talent, you can see it. And you kind of see the Eagles, invested a lot of time and effort to the tackle that they got out of Australia from the rugby thing. And I think that you have to see a guy.
Sorry, Atlanta was on the board. They finally went quarterback. They take Desmond Ridder. Malik Willis is still continuing to fall. I want to go to Chase on that reaction. Chase, come on, man. What do you think about Desmond Ridder going ahead of Malik Willis? And I won my bet, by the way, because I had him at plus 400 to be the next quarterback off the board.
So, I mean, this makes a ton of sense. Like, this is actually where I had Desmond Ridder going at the exact spot. Like, this was, like, almost to a T. But to go ahead of Malik Willis, who essentially gotten compared to Michael Vick to an extent. I don't think that he's there, but got compared to him as like a raw prospect version. Like, this is absurd to an extent. Like, what is happening over there with Malik Willis? What is the giant red flag that we're not seeing? Did he end up posting something on Instagram where he had this gas mask on and maybe he was, smoking some weed out of it or something like that? Like, where is this red flag outside of the fact that he struggles to read progressions and he's raw? Like, dude, he went to Liberty, right? Like,
yeah,
there was no developmental aspect to this. So I feel like you would have this ball of clay that you could mold. And I feel like this could be an offensive coordinator's dream to be able to turn a Josh Allen type talent into whatever you want it to be. And in the Falcons offense, Malik Willis would be a smash. It is absolutely absurd that Malik Willis is sinking to this level without any kind of prior knowledge as to what the hell is happening.
I agree with you from the sense of he has way more potential than a Desmond Ridder does. And while I don't agree with it, this is going to be my question to Jake, people seem to have this idea that Desmond Ridder's more pro-ready. Is that why you think the Atlanta Falcons do it? And if that is their reasoning for it, are we actually going to see a quarterback competition where Ridder maybe is the starter instead of Marcus Mariota?
Yeah, I think, it's solely just based on Marcus Mariota's contract and him getting paid about $9 million a year. That was just like that's like he might start kind of contract, and they're probably going to draft a quarterback kind of contract. And now that they have Ridder being the pick, I guess to me that would say that, Arthur Smith, that, head coach, or one of the others, somebody in the organization had to really like him or something about him. And the thing that I've liked about Arthur Smith so far is since he's been an offensive coordinator or head coach, he really, looks at what he has on his roster and tries to give everyone like a really good chance to use their skills to the max. If you didn't notice how much better Derrick Henry got once he took over, and then, how AJ Brown broke out all of a sudden, all those things happened at the same time he was head coach, or he was offensive coordinator for the Titans. Now he became head coach for the Falcons. There's this old guy named Cordero Patterson who just walked onto the team and just, looked like the best he's ever looked. And, to be honest, anybody who gets there, if that's your coach, that's a good chance for you to succeed. So
What is up with y'all blowing out my ears?
The Broncos, I got to get your attention here.
Hell, dude.
The Broncos have just traded their pick to the Houston Texans. There's going to be more where that came from, so be prepared.
Oh my God.
Jake, were you finished your thought?
Yeah, it was good.
I was just going to say Desmond Ridder starting by week 7.
Chris,
real quick,
Matt Miller. Go ahead, Chase.
Real quick, I just want to talk about this Jaguars pick from earlier, because I don't think we talked about it enough. I mean, you have the Jaguars not only signing a $42 million contract with Oluokunu. Wait, how do you say his last, or how do you say his name? From
That's
the Falcons.
as good of a guess I could have gotten. So
it's Oluokuno or something like that. Anyway,
leading tackle in the NFL last year.
Yeah. So leading tackle in the NFL. So you sign this guy to a contract, and you trade up to draft an off-ball linebacker once again, the second one with Nakobe Dean, and now you take another off-ball linebacker. Like, these are the least valuable positions in the NFL. This is why the Arizona Cardinals have not been able to, beat their division rivals, because they've spent the past 6 years now.
I'll let you finish your thought in a second. Christian Harris is who the Houston Texans just traded up for. They gave up their pick 80 and 162 to move up to the Broncos 175. Go ahead, Chase.
Like they spent 2 of their past 5 years worth of picks, 6 years worth of picks, first round on quarterbacks. The other 3 were on inside linebackers who really don't affect the game that much. Like, their job is to contain, not to make an impact. So, like, it's just absurd what Jacksonville is doing, and it makes literally no sense to me as to why they would spend, 2 picks in the first 3 rounds on an inside linebacker and also sign one of the richest contracts in free agency as a middle linebacker. But I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in on that one, because I'm very confused.
No, it's a valid point. Chris, do you want to take that, though? Because they took 2 linebackers that you were a big fan of.
Yeah, I mean, I can't necessarily say that this is the most prioritized position in the NFL right now, but it is obviously something they're prioritizing. I bashed it for the Packers yesterday because they did something very similar. But for me, when I look at Jacksonville, we don't know what that guy from Atlanta is. Yes, he's leading tackler. Atlanta's defense was atrocious last year. But I do know that Floyd can play multiple roles in your defense. He can blitz. He can play back in coverage. So can Chad Muma. So those 2 guys, basically, that when you give a coordinator those kind of weapons to use, you can show different kinds of fronts. You can show different kinds of coverages. And I also think you could Parsons be a guy that was utilized different hybrid roles. So maybe looking at the guy to use these guys different roles to kind of match up and get one-on-ones for people.
But off the ball linebackers have the lowest win above replacement rate for any position outside of center. Like in center, still I feel like should end up having a bigger impact. But obviously, you have a center, you have them for 20 years in most cases if they're any good. So I mean, inside linebackers, like you just watch them walk because they're not valuable, and you can just find one in free agency, just like they already did. It's kind of like baffling.
Well, I'll challenge that for a second. I mean, look at the Steelers last year when they lost their inside linebackers. They weren't kind of the same guys that they have been. Look at the Ravens when their linebackers weren't the same kind of guys that they have been. When your defense predicated having linebackers that are good guys who can kind of play those coverages and also stop the run, it is a vital part of your team. 49ers stands a fan of Fred Warner, when he entered that team, completely changed what they do. So I think linebackers absolutely something that should still be valued because those guys do bring a lot of things. When you see teams that don't have linebackers, there's a lot of teams that don't have success defensively without a good linebacker. The Colts, for example, had Leonard. What of the rest they have on their defense? Not a whole lot. But when he was out there healthy, they're still over something that was pretty good.
Oh, cool.
Chase, I'm going to let you finish your thought, but the Ravens just took Travis Jones. I absolutely love this pick.
That's insane.
Chase, finish your thought on the debate you guys are having, and I want to get Greg's reaction to
that. So the middle linebacker, first off, the Colts defense is sick, like regardless. Like they have a bunch of top 10 talents, and they have one of the best up-and-coming defenses in the NFL.
Other Buckner.
I'm sorry?
Other than Leonard and Buckner, who is this? Who's these up-and-coming awesome talent that they have?
Tarquay that they have off the outside. They did have Rocky Sin last year, who was an up-and-coming talent. They had the Chris Moore, who was playing the slot. They had the safety, what's his name, that was playing the inside. I mean, they have a sick defense. But in terms of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Bud Dupree was the guy who actually caused the fall of their run defense, because when he was still there, he was fine. And then back in 2020, in the last 5 games of the season, after Bud Dupree got hurt, the whole entire defense shifted. It wasn't because of the middle linebackers, it was because of Bud Dupree. So regardless, I mean, that's an on-the-ball outside linebacker, edge rusher. When it comes to the middle linebackers, I mean, I'm telling you, like it's proven across multiple different analytical fronts that the middle linebacker is the least important position in terms of win over replacement level of any position on the football field outside of center. In terms
I
of
would agree
offense,
with
defense,
Chris real
special
quick
teams.
on the inside linebackers. For instance, the Vikings are going to more of a 3-4, and Chad Muma is a great sideline to sideline guy. I think he'd make a real big difference in the defense. I know what you're saying statistically, but it depends on the player and it depends on the system.
On that note, Jake, the reacts to the Ravens pick getting Travis Jones. They get a behemoth back in the middle, something they've missed. Something with Brandon Williams, who's been getting injured a lot. Whenever he goes down, the run defense always goes to crap. This might ensure that never happens. I love this pick here at the 3rd round, but what's your reaction?
I love big guys, you know.
And I cannot lie.
Any defensive tackle, offensive lineman, I think every team should be drafting at least one of each in every draft. And when they don't, I'm just like, oh, man, got to keep restocking. There's a lot of guys that play these positions. There's a lot you want depth, you want rotation. And even on the best defense's weakness is the other team running the ball so much that they get worn down. And then, you know, if you have more depth and better, you know, defensive linemen, especially in the middle, that's how you counter that to be really, really good on defense.
Love it, love it. Jake, where can we follow you at? Because I got to get to the next slate of guests here. And what do you have coming up?
You can follow me here at Jake's F Football. That's my Twitter handle. You can find my website at jakesffootball.com. I also have a little bit of a presence on Instagram and Facebook, but I don't post there as much. And the big next thing coming up is now that the draft's going on, Monday I'll start my article series on all the teams. all the player changes, all the coaching changes, summarize all that for you, get that all nice information piece, and then also, some analysis after that, which, pick and choose what you want to read out of that.
Excellent stuff there. Greg, where can we follow you, man? And what's your next, Vikings article? I'm assuming you're going to have a draft recap,
I'm
right?
going to do a post-draft one, and I'm also on Twitter, GSimback. I might even write some hockey when the Wild go to the Stanley Cup Finals. Want to be following that. And I want to plug Jake's football. Jake has some of the best questions, football-related questions on the web, so I try to answer them as much as I can. I just did one today, so he's fabulous. And really appreciate the opportunity today, guys. I thank you very much.
No, I love having you on. And Chase, display that belt proud, my man.
Just started full-time with Trophy Smack, where they got some of the best belts and trophies. Hold on, let me throw this trophy up. Oh, my God.
There you go.
It's literally the trophy's taller than I am. We went on a date the other night. It was pretty epic. I took the baby out. We had a steak dinner. I ate both steaks because she's trying to keep her figure. But you guys can find us over there at TrophySmack.com and go follow us over there on YouTube, youtube.com/TrophySmack, and of course Twitter.com/TrophySmack as well at TrophySmack. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of shit going on. It's crazy.
I love it. Yeah, guys, make sure you follow him. He always got some great stuff going on there. I really appreciate all three of you coming on. We'll be talking to you guys again real soon. Guys, stay tuned. The NFL draft. We got more guests, more picks on the way. We'll be back with the Belly Up Sports MD's Fantasy Football Show right after this.
Monkey Knife Fight is a daily fantasy sports game and website with a number of unique ways to win money on your favorite sports players. It's a mix of daily fantasy and prop games. Download the app or go to monkeyknifefight.com with the promo code BELLYUP for an up to $100 deposit bonus. That promo code again is BELLYUP for up to $100 deposit bonus. So download the app or go to monkeyknifefight.com.
All right, and this is a perfect time to announce. Colts take offensive tackle Bernard Raymond. It's a good pick. It's a good value pick. We'll get to Adam's reaction in just a second, but I want to introduce you guys to Rook from Scoreboard Addict. His partner Nick was actually on the beginning of the second round and beginning of the first round yesterday. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. And we got Justin finally making his way on. He'll be on with quite a bit in the next end of this third round, I believe, next couple segments. Justin, how's it going, boss? I know you're just recording over there with TSS Fantasy. How'd that go?
Yeah, we had another great episode, and it's funny that you're saying finally on. After the stretch that we're going to go through, you're going to want me off so quickly.
All right, Adam, let's get your reaction to the Colts pick. Bernard Raymond, offensive tackle.
Yeah, all three of the Colts picks of the draft have been between the last time I was on at I left at 50 and now. So all three of our Colts picks have been since then. Raymond is a great value. He's going to go compete for the left tackle spot more than likely. And that's a spot where competition is going to be really good. That was definitely the weakness of the offensive line last season. So to get one, good value here in the third, and two, at a position of need, that's like the the ideal thing that you can do. Get value and a position of need.
Chris, storyline that continues to grow. Malik Willis still on the board. Where do you think is he gonna make it all the way to the fourth round, you think?
Well, so I wouldn't be down if he was. I know a lot of people are upset about him being still on the board. People, he's got such a good talent, such a guy that how can he still keep falling? To me, I think that what people are actually recognizing was this guy played at Liberty and wasn't mind-blowing in any kind of capacity. He wasn't accurate. He struggled outside the pocket. Yes, he can run. He's also 6'1". He's 220. He built like a running back. That's great. He's not Josh Allen. Josh Allen's way bigger, way stronger, had a way better arm. So when we put all these things together, I think you're looking at a guy that should be going probably in the fourth or fifth round and actually has that value. And I'm very proud of GMs actually for a change of having some restraint and not overdrafting these quarterbacks for a change.
The Browns take their future backup, defensive end Alex Wright from UAB, 6'5", 271, and I do emphasize backup. Chris, I had to cut you off there, so why don't you give me your initial reaction?
As you said, they're backup. And it's just definitely a reach in the third round. Definitely have other holes and players on the board that would definitely have helped. Could have helped address some of those holes. I'm not really understanding this move at all.
This is the Browns, though, so
They
sort of
got to
makes
do
sense.
one Browns thing at least. I know they've gotten better as an organization, but they got to do something that's like OG Cleveland.
Yeah, definitely.
Rook, are you a Giants fan or are you a Jets fan like your co-host?
I'm a Giants fan, clearly.
That's what I thought. Okay, you're
Barkley,
the Giants fan.
I have the man in on right now.
Can you explain to me why they brought David Gettleman back into the draft room since the first round?
I wish I knew. I don't know what they were doing. They got what's his name? They took that wide receiver from Kentucky, and when it happened, I was like, "What the hell are you guys?"
Yeah,
doing?
Wandale Robinson. Yep.
I was like, "What is going on?" There's so many other needs that they could have filled instead of that. Especially, I guess you know what you could have a wide receiver. That's fine, but just not there, not that guy. That's a big problem. But
Not
yeah,
that
It wasn't
guy.
Thornton. At least it's that.
Yeah, we're going to get to that because I got a bunch of fantasy guys on for this segment right here with between Justin and Adam. So Wandale Robinson, here's what's going to happen, and I'm going to go to Justin for this one. Question all Dynasty people are going to have is like, well, there was big draft capital invested in Wandale Robinson, even though we're going to ignore the fact that they brought back Sterling Shepard and still have Kadarius Toney on the team. But so what's your take from a Dynasty standpoint for Wandale Robinson?
I remember big draft capital coming from another wide receiver from the Giants at one point. What was his name? Ross? Yeah, that worked out real freaking well, didn't it? I liked his prospect coming out, but I just didn't think that was a fitting spot for him. I was just like, talk about a reach there. You still got Alec Pierce on the board. You've got so many good talents still on the board. Could have helped you out there. But, I think that's just one of the things, every team does it. I mean, we talk about the Jaguars going to jag, the Browns going to brown, Giants do the same shit. We just went through the 49ers picking up a linebacker. We've got 50 million linebackers. Do we really need another linebacker?
I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Can we go make fun of somebody else's team?
Look, just to give you a little uplift, you guys had a terrific first round.
The first round was great. I agree.
Just focus on the first round. Nothing else happened after that, and you'll be happy when you get to wake up on Sunday when this is all over.
Yeah,
I do want to go back to a couple of interesting picks, though. So let's go back and get your guys' perspective on Desmond Ridder going to the Atlanta Falcons. That's going to be a big storyline coming out of tonight. They take not just the fact that they took him over Malik Willis, but he is somebody who's touted as a guy that is supposedly, I don't buy it, but he's supposedly NFL ready. So will he actually start over Marcus Mariota week 1? I'm going to kick this over to Adam because he's an ex-Cincinnati person.
Yeah, I don't think so. To me, he's an interesting case, a really interesting case, because he's a smart guy, smart kid, good leader. Physically, he's mobile enough. They use the comp on the draft network themselves. Chris, we've talked about this before. He's very Dak-esque. He's mobile enough.
I'll let you finish your thought, but the Chargers just took the safety out of Baylor, J.T. Woods, off the board. But go ahead, Adam, finish your thought.
I was going to say, yeah, he's got a good enough arm, good enough speed, but the accuracy is just so inconsistent at every level of the field. He's not a natural thrower. When there's any kind of pressure in his face, the technique completely breaks down. And that's something that he's got to work on. So that's kind of my hesitation with calling him NFL ready or day one ready. If he cannot fix the accuracy, then it is not going to work out. Again, I think he's got the right mindset. He seems like a really good guy. The story is fantastic. Being from Cincinnati, I want to love him. But when the accuracy is a problem, then nothing else matters.
Greg Dulcich goes to the Denver Broncos at pick number 80. Chris, you just look completely unamused right now. So let me get your take on this.
Well, that wasn't why I was trying to comment on the Ritter thing because I haven't got a chance to talk about him yet. But Deluch is a guy that I think is definitely a pass catcher. I don't love the fit for Denver. They moved on from Noah Fant. I was hopefully Albert O was going to finally get his chance to kind of be the guy there. They have plenty of receivers, so this is basically another guy that can kind of be a mouth to feed. But I really don't see how he can be relevant on the field for this Denver team. The 3 receivers they had drafted and such much capital in and spent money on, it's kind of odd for them to kind of, add another tight end when they just unloaded one.
Go ahead and talk about Ritter.
Ritter, I was going to say, for me, I think you look at a guy, I don't think he's going to be a starter this year, but I think what you're looking at, Arthur Smith has a guy that can kind of comp very much, I think, coming out of college. That's Ryan Tannehill. He looks just like Ryan Tannehill to me. So if you kind of look at what you're hoping to get, maybe that's what Arthur Smith kind of sees is a guy that accuracy can be improved, but decent athlete, decent arm strength, a leader, a guy that can kind of grow into the position. So I think that's why he kind of went over Willis in the situation. I think they see the same kind of, moldableness in a sense out of him.
I'm dreading the fact that Giants are on the clock. I think Malik Willis is going to get drafted next.
Oh man, that would be hysterical. He's not a Brian Dable guy. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Everyone's comparing to Josh Allen. I don't know why.
So, yeah.
Okay, can we talk about that real quick though? Everybody trying to compare Malik Willis to Josh Allen. My memory serves, and I've done a lot of homework here. Pretty sure he's about 5 inches shorter. It was even more inaccurate than Josh Allen was in Wyoming, even more turnover prone, and about, I don't know, 60, 70 pounds lighter. I mean, like what are we talking about when we compare him to Josh Allen? Can someone explain this to me?
And even
he can run
better
as hard?
competition than Liberty played against. Let's just point that out too.
Yeah, he made that one throw in one of the pro days. That was it. That's the
Didn't
only.
Felipe Franks do that though?
In the rain.
Thank you, Justin.
That's a John Gruden thing right there. He's like, oh, he can throw a wet ball. I love the way he can throw a wet ball. He deserves to be gone. He deserves to be gone, but there is a part of me that misses having Chucky around because just being able to make fun of him was always a go-to move for me. But yeah. He had to be gone, unfortunately. All right, come on, Ruck. What are you Giants doing right now?
I actually kind of would like a defensive player here. I just don't know if they do. I thought they were going to linebacker in round 2 when they drafted the receiver. Because they kept dropping back. I thought they were going to take the guy from Michigan who had like a torn Achilles injury. It was can't remember his name right now.
Ajabo.
Yeah, I was hoping they would take him, and then they didn't. They took Wandell from Kentucky and said, so I'm hoping they get some sort of defense. I think the Giants defense has not been the strongest suit. I mean, they got the guard already. I don't know. I missed what you guys said about the guard. He's probably shitty too, right?
I can't even remember who it was now. There's so many picks in my brain.
Yeah, Joshua Nzudu. I don't know how to pronounce that. From North Carolina.
Oh, yes. So I had a 6th round grade on him, if that gives you any indication.
All right, if the Giants draft Malik Willis, I'm going to sign off and just be like, all right, guys, I got it. Oh, here. Is it in now right now or no?
Pick is in.
Pick is in, yeah.
What if it's Leo Chanel? I think that would be the best pick for them. A nice inside linebacker.
Nice inside linebacker.
Big, strong guy. That's a
they want a corner. Yeah. All right, I'll take a corner. Cordell Flott. If I don't know how to pronounce that right. Flott.
Oof.
Yeah,
I think they could really use
Flott.
Calvin Austin.
Yeah. Cordell Flott. I had a 7th round grade on him. So they're moving backwards.
All right, guys. It was great joining you. I'll see you.
We still got you for one more pick. Don't you go anywhere. I want to rewind on this thing, though, real quick. I want to go back to the Jets. I want to go back to the 2nd round. I want to talk about Breece Hall. Adam, Breece Hall now, he's going to be paired up with Michael Carter in that zone X Kyle Shanahan system. My heart was broken for multiple reasons, but what's your standpoint?
My heart was also very much so broken. I think Michael Carter, one, who was a great prospect coming out of North Carolina, who was incredibly underdrafted, played really well last year when he got a chance to. It's so tough. I think Breece Hall, and it's tough because I think Breece Hall will probably take that job from him, not just because of draft capital. Breece Hall is a very good running back in his own right. But it just seems like for a team that isn't very good yet, they've been drafting really well, but they're not very good yet. it seems like a luxury pick to me. I don't know if they were quite to a point where they could go ahead and upgrade the position. That being said, the Shanahan tree has been good at using, this portion of the Shanahan tree has been good at using multiple running backs. I was going to say that, but that's not been the case for McVay. But otherwise, otherwise they have been. So I do think.
So Kentucky's very popular. The Falcons just drafted Kentucky pass rusher D'Angelo Malone. That's who they just took. He had a big Senior Bowl. Guess he impressed them. They go with the outside linebacker. Look at Kentucky getting guys in the NFL all of a sudden. Chris's face when he's not amused.
He's Western
it's
Kentucky.
hilarious. He's got like the Charlie Brown, like the eyebrows goes up, and he's just like, what the hell? Go ahead.
No, Kentucky was actually really talented the last few years, and it kind of, people are kind of writing them off because they're Kentucky, but they have been really good the last couple of years. But this is not a guy who should be going right here in the third round. I'm absolutely surprised. I think Pascal was where the cutoff point the defensive players were for the Kentucky team. I can't see them going any further on that defense because it kind of already, other than Kennard, there should be no other guys drafted at Kentucky right now.
Can't disagree with that. All right, Rook, you're going to sign off here. Where can everybody follow you at? What's going on with Scoreboard Addicts?
Scoreboard Addicts available everywhere podcasts are available. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I've been doing the Rook Report daily every morning. We do New York sports mainly. I do want to say the Jets have been drafting really well, even though I'm a Giants fan. The Jets have done a really good job. So good for Nick and TJ because they're both Jet fans.
Just swap out that jersey for a green one, and nobody will ever know the difference.
Yeah, no, people will, and I will get abuse for it. So,
Justin, you're going to be coming back on, just taking a segment off, and then you'll be coming right back with us. And Adam's staying on with the next segment too. So we're going to go right to the commercial break, guys. Everybody, stay with the NFL draft coverage here with Belly Up Sports and the MD's Fantasy Football Show. We'll be back right after this.
Hey, fellas, have you started your spring cleaning yet? The carpets need cleaning, the drapes need dusting, and your lawn needs mowing. Spring has sprung, and the global leaders in below-the-waist grooming have the best tools for cleaning aisle 5 in your pants. Time to clear out your winter bush and join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to Manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BellyUpFantasy. Manscaped has the full package you need for spring cleaning this year. The Performance Package 4.0 is the only tool you'll need to keep your boys looking and smelling like the fresh tulips your partner wants. To start off your spring cleaning, use the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 to get the most precise shave on your hedges. Did we mention it's waterproof? No need to worry about watering your grass with this tool, equipped with an LED light so you'll know it'll be a major asset to the new shower routine. Clear your holes and smell the spring air with the Weed Whacker. This nose and ear hair trimmer provided proprietary skin-safe technology which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. After clearing your nose, make sure you get rid of that foul ball smell with the Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver. Finish off your grooming routine with the Plow 2.0, the perfect razor for the finest shave on your face. Because if you're using the Lawnmower 4.0 on your balls and your face, you're doing it wrong, boys. Get 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code BellyUpFantasy at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code BellyUpFantasy at Manscaped.com. It's time to throw out your old hygiene habits and upgrade your life.
You're listening to the MD's Fantasy Football Show.
Well, this is a good time to bring on a new slate of guests because this is going to be a big pick. A lot of people are going to be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles just drafted Nakobe Dean while we were on the break. So let me introduce our next guest. We got Shane Bear from the Collective. I'm lost here. The Collective Knowledge here, and we got Paul. Is it Becerra or Becerra?
Becerra, yes, sir.
Becerra. Okay, thank you, Paul Becerra, ATB Cowboys podcast, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming on. Shane, thank you for correcting me too in the private chat. It was Western Kentucky, not Kentucky. I misspoke. Thank you for that as well. So how are you doing today, fellas? And we'll start with Shane. Give me your quick reaction to Nakobe Dean going to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Man, I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Dan. Another quick correction. I am no longer with the Collective. I am the solo host of the Fantasy Nightcap podcast.
Oh, okay. When did that happen?
And the sit down with Shane just a few weeks ago. So it's all under Fantasy Nightcap now. is where you can find me on Twitter and YouTube if you're not already following me at FFShaneB. As for Nakobe Dean, I love it. I think the Eagles are having one of the better drafts so far, and Nakobe Dean fits in that. They got first-round talent in the third round. I even tweeted right before I came on, why is Nakobe Dean still available? And someone told me that PFF had sources that he refused shoulder surgery. So it was medicals that caused him to fall, and I hadn't seen that yet. But this is a steal for the Eagles.
I absolutely agree with you. And yes, he's a smaller guy. Yes, if there's red flags about his shoulder, that can be somewhat concerning. But I got to think, being that his future was on the line, there had to be a very good reason why he decided to decline surgery. I have to think that, right, Paul?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, shout out to the Eagles, who, as a Cowboys fan, I hate that they're having a good draft, but
right.
Well, that's what I wanted to lead up into, because Paul does the Cowboys podcast, so I had to lead up to what do you think of the Eagles might be coming out as the winning team in this draft when it's all said and done, between the picks they've made and the trade they've made, and how you feel about that, bud?
You know, I'm higher on Jalen Hurts than my co-host Mike the Pig Crumb. You find him on Twitter at CD Piglet, but they acquire AJ Brown. They go out and get Jordan Davis now with Nakobe Dean. I can't remember who they took in the second round, but they're just having a really good draft, and it's kind of sickening because I've already thought they were a good team that made the playoffs last year, and I just have a feeling this team is on the upswing, and we're looking at the Cowboys now, and I feel like they're kind of starting a little mini rebuild here.
And we got the pick in. Pittsburgh Steelers are going to take defensive end to Marvin Leal.
Oh, wow.
That's going to be their pick here. Chris, you're nodding your head along. Give me your analysis.
Yeah, a guy that I'm shocked still is on the board. One of the better penetrators in his draft class is defensive tackle. A guy who was actually a top 10 prospect coming into this year. Didn't have the kind of senior year people expected him to kind of have, but it's definitely a good player. A guy that I think still has a lot more upside to kind of reach. And in today's league, where we love the guys who can get up, penetrate, and cause pressure up the middle, this guy can collapse the pocket. He can get after the best of them. He can play inside or outside. I think this guy's a great fit for this Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and kind of insurance for Casey Hayward, the guy that they lost him last year, really helped their defense kind of fall apart. I think he's kind of ensures them that the Hot's going to kind of step up there and replace him in the sense that was to happen again.
Adam, the Patriots are on the board. What kind of special teams player are they going to take next?
So I really liked Thornton's teammate, their running back. He's probably projected in around the 6th round, so that seems like the Patriot way to go ahead and grab him here.
I mean, yeah, so we talk about the Eagles. They're probably going to walk away as the big winner. I don't know who's more of a loser than the Patriots. Is there anybody?
I mean, regardless of these players work out, they could have gotten all of them much later.
Yeah.
And you know what? I said this to Chris. I'm tired of Bill Belichick getting the excuse of the Bill Belichick genius, which is why everyone's like, well, this is what they do. They find diamonds in the rough. He's going to develop guys. They're going to find ways. You don't find diamonds in the rough in the first and second round. That's not where you find diamonds in the rough at. Stop telling me about the Belichick genius, please. I just have to get that off my chest, and we can continue on now with the actual draft coverage.
Dan, I just love you more now for that comment.
I appreciate that. But after the Patriots, a team where the draft is being hosted at and hasn't been able to pick yet, the Raiders are going to be coming up at pick 86. So when your first pick of the draft is in the 3rd round, what do you do?
Celebrate that you have Devontae Adams.
Take a lineman.
I think
it's clearly the Raiders need offensive linemen. They didn't necessarily hit their guy last year. They continue to have holes in the offensive line. If you want Derek Carr and Devontae Adams and all those guys you have in place to be successful.
Well, Chris, here, I'll cut you The correct answer is what you do is you trade out of it. You trade it to the Tennessee Titans for pick 90 and pick 169. That's what you do with it.
Not a bad move, really.
I was gonna
when you don't have many picks, you'll get more of them.
And if you're the Patriots, you take Marcus Jones, the cornerback out of Houston, 5'8". Actually, not a terrible pick that they went with. They needed a slot corner. Go ahead, Shane, react to that pick.
I got nothing for you.
From what I understand, he's a really good kick returner as well.
He's a very good kick
kind
returner.
of
Okay.
Special teams guy and a good slot corner. I mean, you can never have a good slot corner.
Dan, my reaction is he's my height, so he better be fast.
That is valid. But I did say to Adam, what special teams player were they going to take? And I mean, they took a better one than I thought they were going to. Go ahead, Chris. You got your eyebrows up.
I love Marcus Jones. I think pound for pound, one of the best players you could find in this draft. You look at explosiveness. This guy is explosive kick returner, one of the top returners probably in the last decade. And then you look at what he kind of does defensively. He's not afraid to tackle. He's not afraid to kind of match up with anybody inside. He's got quick feet. He's got great ball skills. This guy has it all. And I think Marcus Jones is somebody that, of the draft, of course, the Patriots, he'll definitely be the best player so far that they have on their team. And a guy definitely a value, I think, especially right here. A lot of other quarters come off the board. This guy can actually really is going to be a game changer.
Again, nothing to report here, but something I talked about earlier, and it's a developing story. The Browns and the Panthers are getting closer in negotiations for a trade involving Baker Mayfield, where the Browns would be prepared to take on a portion of Mayfield's salary, but there's still nothing definitive yet as far as that front. Just wanted to kind of keep you guys up to date because it's been one of the big storylines that we have been following throughout the draft process today. All right, so Tennessee just climbed up to the board at 86. Adam, what do you think Tennessee wants to try to do here?
I think it's Willis time. I do.
Tennessee.
I think that they're preparing for life after Ryan Tannehill. It is clear that this was an Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith was making Ryan Tannehill work. That was not the other way around. Ryan Tannehill was not the successful portion here. I think that they're preparing for life after him.
Nailed it, buddy. The Titans have selected Malik Willis.
Let's go.
Okay.
All right. So, Adam, I had to cut you off. We'll start with you. Everyone's going to want an opinion on this. We'll go down the board. So go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. So I think that they wanted to keep having a quarterback who could move around. I think as far as fits for him go, this is one of the better ones where he's going to be able to run first system. He's going to be able to use his legs, move around, a lot of play action. And he's going to be able to sit behind Ryan Tannehill. Again, I think they're working for life after Ryan Tannehill, but I think he gets another year or two, which is fine. I think, honestly, this is around the range, maybe even a little high, but around the range where Malik Willis should have been going if we were all being real with ourselves initially, at least in my opinion, because he is a project. He is a project that's going to take a bit. However, I think he can do a pretty good Jalen Hurts impression, and Jalen Hurts was picked maybe a little high, but has worked out a little bit, at least with his rushing ability. I think that they're very similar. One has the better arm, a little less accurate. I think it evens out, except for the ceiling's a little bit higher in Willis's case.
All right, let's go down the bowl. We'll go to Paul now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for fantasy, it doesn't really do very much, but it's always good a raw guy like Malik with the talent that he has to maybe to sit for a year or two and learn the game and just to be, make the adjustments to the NFL, learning an NFL offense and things like that. I think it's good for him, but again, back to fantasy.
Shane, what do you think? What's your take on the Malik Willis?
I love it. So pre-draft, I was saying that the Titans needed to take Desmond Ridder because I didn't think Malik Willis would be available. So getting Malik Willis, I love it. I agree with everything Adam said. And I don't know if you guys just saw it, but my eyes got about as big as they could. And that's because they just popped up a stat on, I think I'm on ABC. Ryan Tannehill was sacked 47 times last year. If you've got a more Tannehill's mobile, but I think Malik is probably even a little bit more mobile. If you've got someone who can get out of that a little bit better, that's a great pick. But again, he's a project. He's got a cannon for an arm, and I love the pick. Makes a ton of sense.
Good, Chris.
If I'm Mike Vrabel, I hate this pick. Between this and the Traylon AJ Brown trade, this means that my team basically is not invested trying to be a Super Bowl contender now and worried about a salary cap in a year or two. Ryan Tannehill's due to come off the books. Derrick Henry's due to come off the books. AJ Brown's about to get paid. So this team, obviously, after paying their defensive players, they have all that money. They don't really have the money to kind of spread around for these guys, and so they're trying to kind of reload it in a sense. But these guys aren't, especially Malik Willis, isn't going to be a guy who's going to be productive this year necessarily. You're hoping maybe next year, but Tennessee was a 13-3 team last year, or 14-3 team last year. This is definitely a step back where they're trying to be. You're not lining up to win the Super Bowl with these picks. You're lining up for the future.
You're lining up for 2023. That is in fact what is happening here, without a doubt. I'll tell you else who doesn't love it. Not that I was big on him anyway going to the Tennessee Titans, but this does nothing for Robert Woods because he needs a quarterback who throws with anticipation, throws with some accuracy to hit him in his routes when he's making his breaks. That ain't going to happen for Malik Willis. I will say, though, it's even better for Treylon Burks because Treylon Burks is just a big guy. He's going to just be able to throw it in his area and hope he catches the ball. So it does keep propping up the idea that Burks can be a top receiver if he's as talented as I personally think he is. Again, I comped him to Devontae Adams. That's who I think he is, and I'm going to keep riding that train. And even with Malik Willis, it scares me a little bit because, again, he's not accurate, but I think because of that, he's going to be forced to have Treylon Burks go up and get jump balls. So I like it for that reason, too. And obviously, from a fantasy standpoint, look, he's not going to play this year. When we get to 2023, he runs. He'll be a top 12 quarterback on my board, without a doubt. In Dynasty, you're going to have to take that into consideration, especially if you're in super flex leagues. It's a better situation than most of the places he could have wound up at. The best one for him would have been the Steelers, but the Titans is not a bad organization for him to go either. So, got it all from every angle here on the Belly Up Sports MD's Fantasy Football Show draft coverage. Still waiting on the Arizona Cardinals, which I'm a little bit surprised has taken this long to take.
Yeah, everyone else has been pretty quick recently.
I know. All of a sudden, they kind of pumped the brakes on me. After them, since we have Paul here, 88.
I'm not tight end on the board.
It's not tight end on the board. After them at 88, we got Paul here with Dallas. So what do you want to see them do, man? And also, give me your take on them going with the Tyler Smith in the first round last night.
So last night, I was sitting there praying. I saw receiver after receiver go. And then we saw Kenyon Green.
Oh, sorry. Here, let me give you your pick real quick. Somehow we skipped over Arizona and got to Dallas, but it looks like they took Jalen Tolbert.
Oh,
Dallas did?
That's
no, the Cardinals.
Oh, Cardinals.
No, I'm getting from Cowboys blogs that they are taking Jalen Tolbert, but I don't have a Cardinals pick. We'll see if that winds up being definitive, but that's what I'm seeing as of right now. But go ahead, Paul.
Okay, so yeah, back to my reaction to the first round. I mean, we saw Kenyon Green and we saw Zion Johnson go prior to their pick, and then we saw the receivers Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Treylon Burks, guys that they have been kind of linked to. So then I was thinking, is there any way in the world that Jermaine Johnson could possibly fall to 24 to help, fill the void left behind by Randy Gregory? And of course he falls there, and then what happens? We take Travis Jones, who people, a lot of scouts that I listen to and, that have close ties to the Cowboys have a third-round grade on. And obviously I was disappointed, but it sounds like they're going to try to let him play guard this year just so he could get some playing time, and then he could be our future left tackle as a Tyron Smith replacement. So as much as I dislike it, it's, this guy has a lot of potential. Apparently he's a lot of scouts in the NFL had a first-round grade on him, so who am I to argue with those guys? But at the time, I hated it. I'm trying to find the silver lining, I guess.
So the Cardinals took San Diego State defensive end Cameron Thomas. That's who the Cardinals go with. So Chris, react to that pick and then say what you're going to say to Paul.
Yeah, I think Cameron Thomas is a good pick. Definitely an edge rusher, a guy that a lot of people had all over the board. Some people had him as a first rounder. A guy that kind of came on the last 2 years, has great physical skills, 6'4", 267, good edge rush, good bender. I think he's not a great run stopper, but definitely a guy that can be a game changer on third downs. So I think this is a good pick for them.
And what were you going to say to Paul? Because I cut you off.
I was going to say, Paul, absolutely you can argue with them because a lot of times these draft pennants aren't right. A lot of times they make mistakes. Sometimes their grading is horrible. And they have a lot of grades that hire people and winds up being complete crap. So definitely, if you think the guy was really that good, Paul, because I think you're right on the right in the head of a lot of the guys on that board. They should have took over them. And this is a guy I think is a project at best. A guy's grabby. You're hoping he's going to be a tackle at some point. He can play guard. I don't think he's ever going to really be a starting left tackle, be a right tackle. But he arrived a lot of college. The guy who got basically unloaded, and you thought Connor Williams wasn't the guy that can answer for Sadie inside. This guy's going to be, I think, even more grabby than Connor Williams was in there. So,
God.
From what I understand, Connor Williams is more of like a.
Was right. They did take Jalen Tolbert here. I'm going to say this real quick, and I'll kick it right over to Paul. We had to cut him off. I comped him to Michael Gallup. So very interesting that they actually wind up taking a Jalen Tolbert here. But, Paul, let's see your reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we got a receiver. This is not somebody I had ever thought we would take. I mean, being comped to Michael Gallup, we've already got Michael Gallup, and then we went out and signed James Washington too. So, I'm not really feeling this every pick as a whole. But hopefully he can do something. Maybe he can man the slot. Maybe he can be our yak guy, our big play guy. Because it'd be nice to have a Z receiver who can do a lot after the catch behind the line of scrimmage.
Shane, what's your reaction, man?
I'm also a Cowboys fan. I know some of you probably know the joke that I cheer for the NFL because I have 3 favorite teams, but I'm also Cowboys are one of those. I'm with you, Paul. If you're comping him to Michael Gallup, we've already got Michael Gallup. We've traded Amari Cooper for pennies. Why make this pick? Why not go get someone who can diversify the skill set? If you're going after wide receiver, why not diversify the skill set in the wide receiver room more than what you've already got? So I don't love it. From people.
I'll jump in here real quick.
Yeah,
what if the idea is that they have Tolbert and Gallup on the outside to allow CeeDee Lamb, whenever they go to 3 receiver sets, to just be the slot guy, no questions asked about it? Does that make you feel any different about it or no?
If you frame it that way, yes, because CD is so damn good in the slot. But to me, CD's good enough to play anywhere.
I think we've kind of seen a trend where the best receivers on the teams are manning the slot more and more. So
yeah,
it would be nice to see CD playing more out of the slot. And having those speed guys on the outside, that would be nice because all I've been hearing all offseason is getting back to having a Dak-friendly offense or finding a Dak-friendly receiver. So if this guy that has that big playability, maybe he can fill that Michael Gallup role until he comes back from injury because it sounds like he's going to at least be out until week 1, I'd imagine probably the first month of the season.
When did Gallup get hurt? And he tore his ACL, right?
I thought it wasn't
towards the end of the year. It was around Thanksgiving time.
Was it the Saints?
It was somewhere around there. But they gave him the big contract. The word on him has been he's expected to recover in time. But I'm going to have to leave you guys there. We got to get the next slate of guests on to close out the 3rd round. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on. Paul, we'll start with you. Where can everybody follow you, and what's coming up next on your show?
Yeah, guys, thank you so much, Dan, for having me on. You can find me on Twitter at Paul_Ryan15, and you can find my podcast, the ATV Cowboys Pod. I'm streaming every Monday at 9 p.m. on Twitter.
Excellent. And Shane, where can we follow you, man? What do you got coming up next?
Follow me on Twitter at FFShaneB or at Fantasy Nightcap. Next episode will come out Tuesday morning, and it is going to be an NFL draft review with Nick Script, P2W Fantasy.
Excellent. Everybody make sure you're checking that out. Guys, stay tuned here. We're going to close down the 3rd round on this show, so stay with the Belly Up Sports' MD's Fantasy Football Show draft coverage. We'll be back right after this.
Do you have trouble waking up in the morning? Well, not anymore, because Invader Coffee is here to make you look forward to that morning sunshine. Rated one of the best, smoothest tasting coffees on the market today. Originating out of Texas, this rare coffee product is able to reach new heights in quality from its air roasting process, creating coffee beans with the most robust and smooth flavor you will ever find. So make your mornings more enjoyable by going to invadercoffee.com and use the promo code BELLYUP for 15% off your next purchase. Again, that is promo code BELLYUP for 15% off of your Invader Coffee purchase today at invadercoffee.com.
You're listening to the MD's Fantasy Football Show.
All right, well, we had 2 picks while we were on the break. The Bills selected Baylor linebacker Terrell Bernard, and then we had the Raiders taking Dylan Parham, offensive lineman. Before we get into all that, I want to bring on our next crew. So Justin's back from a segment ago. He'll be with us to close it down. Our new guest. Now, is it – I want to screw this up. Is it like Joffrey from Game of Thrones? No.
Just Jeff. Just Jeff. Yep.
Okay, Jeff Lambert. Because everybody, when they spell it your way, it's always pronounced like a little.
Yeah.
Everyone does it a little bit differently. But I want to thank you for coming on today, closing down the third round with us. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. It's been a fun day 2 after a crazy day 1. So it's a lot of fancy stuff going on tonight too. So yeah, I'm loving the draft so far.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot to break down as we close out this third round. And if you guys are wondering, did I purposely wait till the end of the third round to bring on as many 49ers fans as I could? The answer is yes, between myself, Justin, and Jeff right here. All right, guys, so let's react to these picks here. The Raiders take Dylan Parham. The Bills take the linebacker Terrell Bernard. Jeff, we'll start with you. What's your reaction to those 2 picks?
I mean, honestly, I don't know a lot about the defensive guys this far down in the board, but as far as position goes, I think both those teams fill the position of need. I think the Raiders have been known for a while for having a good offensive line, so why not add some depth to there? And the Bills adding a linebacker definitely makes sense as well. So I think both picks make sense for those 2 teams.
I will say I do really like the Dylan Parham pick for the Raiders. They have to get back to restructuring, especially the interior of that offensive line. He's a nice run grader. But let's talk about something else with the Raiders that I thought was interesting today. They did not pick up Josh Jacobs' 5th-year options. Justin, what was your reaction to that?
Expendable much?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, everybody is kind of getting on this rookie fever thing where they don't want to pay their second contracts to the running backs. And it's completely understandable. Most of the time, these running backs get the second contract and they kind of break down around year 2. Obviously, guys like Derrick Henry are kind of the exception. Aaron Jones has had an injury here and there, but he's been pretty good on his contract too. So, I mean, I see it, I understand where they're coming from. And obviously, Jacobs has had his issues with injuries in the past.
Yeah, I just thought it was really curious because Kenyon Drake, he'll be off the books probably next season. I don't really see them bringing them back. So I was a little bit curious. I was like, did that mean they were going to draft a running back today? It hasn't happened, at least not to this point anyway. Yeah. There are some running backs that have been on my board that I thought would be sleeper type of picks. There's guys like Isaiah Spiller. There's some other guys that I think are more electric later on. He's the next guy off my board who has a workhorse ability to him. But, Chris, it is Josh McDaniels who comes from a history of not giving a crap about running backs. So do you think Raiders are just going to turn to new Patriots where we're just going to see second-round running backs drafted and just put into a committee, and that's the end of it?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you're going to see. I think Jacobs' days were numbered as soon as McDaniels got that job. They don't really ever use a true feature running back in New England. He never has, and I think he's going to start to now. I think we look at this team, they're going to build around Derek Carr. They're going to build around their passing attack. And I think you're going to have different guys that are going to have their roles. And he likes to have a guy who plays the third down role for him, a guy who can kind of be that grinder early on, and then another grinder, and then, Bolden will probably get hired just because he's always there around Josh McDaniels somehow. But other than that, I think you have a backfield that's probably going to be a 3-4 running back rotation. Chucky moved on, but I think the days where people were hoping Jake gets his chance to be that kind of alpha is never going to happen.
All right. So speaking of running backs, Rachaad White just went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we can talk about him, but we also had a second pick where the Packers jumped up and took offensive tackle Sean Ryan out of UCLA. So, Chris, I had to cut you off. We'll go right back to you. Rachaad White, Sean Ryan, go.
I love Sean Ryan. The White thing, Leonard Fournette's day of the RB1 and that pass catching back in Tampa Bay has just went out the window. This guy will be the third down back in Tampa Bay. I will call it right now. Fournette will not be that guy anymore. I think those days are definitely just ended with that draft pick.
I want to ask you something. Do you think it's really going to be this year? Because I don't have a very high grade on Rachaad White when it comes to his pass protection, and we know Tom Brady's not going to have a running back next to him who can't pass protect.
James White wasn't a good pass protector, so he did have guys behind next to him who can't pass protect. He had Gio back there.
I don't know if he was as bad as Rashad White is. Because Rashad White's very late.
At least Rashad White's big enough. Gio can take on any kind of anything. So the two guys he's had next to him in the last couple of years, I think he looks like he's gonna have a pass catcher. Danny Woodhead back in the day in New England. This is a guy that fits that pass catching only role. I don't think he's gonna be a pass. I don't think he's asked to pass protect in this offense. He'll be asked to run slants and angle routes out of the backfield, basically.
I don't know, Adam. Are we going to talk about Rashad White as a sleeper in PPR?
It very well could be. I think he could be what a lot of people were looking for in Gio last year, in that he was, in spurts, Gio could take that receiving role, but he never really got it enough because he wasn't much of an upgrade as a receiver over Leonard Fournette. This is different. This is an actual upgrade as a receiver over Leonard Fournette. And clearly Leonard Fournette is not in their long-term plans. This guy very well might be.
Jeff, where did you have Rashad White on your board coming into the draft?
Right around this area. Now, as far as fantasy goes, I had him as my RB4 or 5 in PPR especially. I think he is probably the best route runner of all the running backs that were drafted in day 2. I do think Rashad White fits with the Buccaneers, and his comp is sort of a James White kind of player, with Tom Brady there. I think he is. I think he's going to be great in PPR. I think he's not going to ever be a workhorse kind of back, but in PPR he will be solid.
Yeah, they haven't really had that. Now, if he is able to get on the field right away, to Chris's point, yes, this definitely takes a hit to Leonard Fournette. I'm just going to have to see that before I believe it when it comes to pass, at least early in the year. A lot of times these rookie running backs, what I will say, especially passing down specialists like a Rashad White, they can pick it up in a 4 to 6 week period, generally speaking. So it may not be long into the season before I feel a little bit more confident in it. We'll have to see. But to your point, yes.
One thing I will say too, this signifies the official death of Keyshawn Vaughn. So if you were hanging on to Keyshawn Vaughn, he's pretty much done now. He has no use there anymore.
Yeah, and he never really got a shot. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to throw one more caveat. Well, I agree with you. Usually, pass protection is definitely not a rookie's best friend in the running back position if they can't do so. The Tampa Bay team uses their tight ends a lot to block and has good blocking tight ends. So this is where you can kind of have a guy stay in the sense or help chip, and maybe that running back gets to run those freak routes as we saw at New England.
Do we think Gronk's going to go back?
I don't think so.
I think so.
Yeah, he'll be back.
He just doesn't want to practice.
Got 4 different answers. I love it.
Yeah. He doesn't want to show up for the voluntary stuff. He's going to volunteer.
And he doesn't want to get himself in trouble. If he's not under contract, he can't get in trouble for anything right now. So
yeah, good point.
Exactly.
All right, Justin, the 49ers are going to be on the clock soon. What do you think? I wasn't thrilled with their first pick.
Running back or linebacker?
Yeah. Definitely need another linebacker. Let's get another middle linebacker because we need backups for Dre Greenlaw now. I don't know, guys. Do you think Dameon Pierce would want to come down?
Oh, dear Lord, please stop. I will end this broadcast early if they take Dameon Pierce. God, no. Please don't take the slowest possible running back that you possibly can. Did they not learn their lesson last year with, I can't even remember what's his face that they traded up for from Ohio State?
Trey Sermon. You might have lucked out that White was off the board.
I was purposely not remembering his name. What's that, Chris?
I said, but you might be actually lucky that the White got taken off the board because that could be a guy that could be actually thought about for the.
He would actually be a different running back than what we have.
And he's a pass catcher. I know. That's why I'm like, that might have been a guy you actually were interested in, possibly.
Yeah, but I mean, we see it from all the trees. Like they just do not.
All right, broadcast over. The 49ers just drafted LSU running back Ty Davis Price.
Yes. Yes. I love it.
The only people laughing their asses off right now, the non-49er fans to your right.
Oh, gosh. Oh,
go ahead, Jeff. Fire away first, and we'll go to Justin.
Wow. I really thought they were going to go with a DB, either a safety or a corner here. I don't understand this pick. I mean, they do it every year, right? They take a running back pretty much every year.
Oh, my God.
But, I mean, we have, 4 running backs under contract right now because we still have Hasty.
Yep.
Trey
Jeff
Sermon,
Wilson, Hasty.
Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson. So he's a practice squad guy. I don't even know much about him because I didn't scout him for fantasy purposes, so I don't even know a whole lot about him. Is he a pass catching running back? Could he be that guy?
The only stats I'm getting on him right now is that he had his first 1,000-yard season this past year in 2021. He had a school record of 287 yards against Florida, and that's all I got for you because I didn't do any scouting on this guy either because he's not anywhere near my board. All right. Well,
here's something crazy for you guys. Just throwing this out there. I don't know. There's David Bell out there.
Yeah, that was a nice pick.
Come on, man.
The Carolina Panthers have just taken Matt Corral as their quarterback, so they do take a third-round quarterback here with Matt Corral. So, Justin, finish your thought on the 49ers because I don't want to spend too much time on it anyway. We'll talk about Matt Corral going to the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I got nothing else to say. I'm just severely disappointed.
For what it's worth, he had 28 career catches, so he's not a pass catcher.
Adam, talk to me about Matt.
More depressed.
Adam, talk to me about Matt Corral on going to Carolina there.
He's someone that I went up and down on all offseason. I ended, at least relative to this draft class of quarterbacks, I ended with him kind of on the higher end. I think he's someone that in the right system, if Joe Brady was still there, for instance, who I think if you were able to structure, essentially dictate you were throwing here, he did a really good job when he wasn't forced to make decisions, when he was able to take his two-step drop and immediately throw. I think within that type of system, he worked really, really well, i.e. his footwork was good. He was clean when he didn't have to think much. He's not someone who you can, let
That's
work
not what you want to hear. Your quarterback does not need to be able to think.
No, you're saying he can't improvise? What?
No, so he is not someone who's going to work in a more traditional scheme, i.e. what Ben McAdoo is going to run. So in this instance, I don't like it. But he is someone who, relative to this draft class, I'll say it again, relative to this draft class, he is on the more accurate side, which is more a statement about this draft class than Coral. But nonetheless, I don't know. This deep in the class, and with Darnold being your quarterback, it's not the worst thing in the world, but I don't know. It's like a C plus.
Chris, I got two questions for you. One will be the Panthers pick and one about the 49ers pick. So with the Panthers pick, Matt Corral, will Sam Darnold not be the starting quarterback? Will Matt Corral beat him out this year? Because that's going to be now the big controversy.
Not week one, but by the midseason, yes, he will. He's more athletic.
Throws
more catchable ball. He actually will get the ball to the receivers where Robbie Anderson and G.J. Moore won't be sitting there just wondering, will the ball ever come to them again? I think that he definitely will be the starter by the end of the season.
I tend to agree with that. And then going back to the 49ers, should people in dynasty leagues who have Eli Mitchell be concerned?
I think that if you're a 49er running back owner, you should always be concerned every year. I think you just kind of cash in as soon as you possibly can. We've seen Raheem Mostert. You've seen Mitchell. We've seen all kinds of running backs come out through San Francisco since Kyle Shanahan has arrived there. As Jeff kind of pointed out, they draft one almost every year. It's usually in the second, third round. So, yes, I would be extremely concerned because you still have Trey Sermon who hasn't seen the field. You still have all those guys under contract. And there'll still be guys who will be cut or possible undrafted free agents. And we know Kyle Shanahan loves the undrafted free agent running backs. So, put all those things on the table. I would be worried if I'm an Elijah Mitchell owner.
Yeah, the more I look at this guy, the more he's pretty much a Trey Sermon 2.0. But anyway, all right, so everyone's going to be talking about the Carolina Panthers now. If Matt Corral is going to be the starter for long term, let's think long term because 2022 probably won't be that productive. Jeff, does this help DJ Moore get back on track at some point? Do you think this is the answer, or does this solidify DJ Moore having his fantasy value be limited moving forward?
I mean, DJ Moore is the king of bad quarterbacks, right? I mean, he's had a great fantasy career with terrible quarterbacks. So I don't know if Matt Corral could be any worse than what he's had. So, I mean, why not, hopefully he's a little bit better. He gives him the ball, gets him the touchdowns, because we know that's the thing he struggles with mostly is the touchdowns. So I mean, maybe Matt Corral is better. Maybe he's not, but I'm not too worried about DJ Moore's value really, because I don't think he's had a good quarterback his entire career.
No, I don't think he's going to fall, but there is a ceiling that we know DJ Moore could reach if he ever has someone half decent to be able to throw him the ball, especially when it comes to the touchdowns. That's what holds him back. He's always one of the most inconsistent receivers based on his target share because he doesn't find the end zone. What does this do for maybe some of the other wide receivers, for Robbie Anderson, for Terrace Marshall, Justin?
Well, for Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, for Robbie Anderson, you got to do what you did a year ago. Put this guy more in the slot. Stop running him out like he's running with Sam Darnold and the Jets, and just, work the short field, especially with Corral. I mean, just like how Adam was saying, this guy is a first read type of guy. So make his first read a good read. Don't be sending Robbie Anderson all the way downfield. Set him on a 5-yard slant, get him the ball in open field, and let him work. Obviously they got Christian McCaffrey back there. I don't think that tears up his fantasy value. But, I mean, we're talking about Matt Corral and Sam Darnold as your quarterbacks. Can we just erase Matt Rule as the quarterback or as the coach already? Can we just fire him tomorrow?
Don't worry.
Can we just say bye? Like, get out of here? Yeah. I mean, Terrace Marshall's a lost cause in my opinion right now. I mean, he can totally come up, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to invest in him.
Yeah, Matt Rule will be casualty number one when it comes to the head coaches by 2022. I don't think there's any question about that whatsoever. Adam, who's the top guy on your board right
now? That is a good question. Let me go ahead and look.
Well, while you're doing that, Chris, who's yours? Is it Daniel Fowler?
Yeah, that's what I say. A guy since this whole second round has begun. I like Philly a lot. I like David Bell. I think is another guy that, all these different receivers are coming off the board that I'm really curious about what they can actually do in the pros. This guy can actually run patterns. He can get open. He's a guy that's going to be a quarterback's best friend in a lot of ways. Reminds me a lot of Cooper Kupp. So when I put all those things together, this is a guy I think that should definitely be somebody people, when you talk about value receiver and people wanting to get their hands on a good receiver, this guy to me is still a good receiver, despite what he did ran into the combine.
The Bengals select a defensive tackle from Florida, Zachary Carter, coming off the board here. So Bengals is staying heavy on the defensive side of the ball throughout this entire draft, just trying to get back to where they were, so that way not all the pressure is on Joe Burrow and that offense. Let's talk about the Bengals, though. They made some adjustments to their offensive line. I think they improved it, not drastically, but improved it enough where if you're Burrow, you're not going to get sacked the most in the NFL, I would think, next season. Can Jamar Chase repeat in his sophomore year, or will he have somewhat of a slight downtick, more logically so, heading into his second year, Jeff?
I think there'll be some regression. I do. I mean, that Division 2 is pretty tough, defensively as well. So there will be some regression, but I think there could be regression and him still be a top, 5-ish receiver. When he was as good as he was this past season, I think in Dynasty, he's obviously the top receiver in Dynasty right now. But I think he can have some regression and still be a top receiver in the NFL.
All right. And Adam, we're going to have a nice one for you. Colts traded up to 96 to go get Nick Cross, the safety out of Maryland.
More safeties, Adam.
More safeties.
Yeah, more safeties. We were talking about it earlier.
Always need safeties in that cover 2 Colts scheme to play. All right, go ahead. Give me your reaction.
Yeah, again, I mean, this is kind of the time in the draft where every year it feels like, at least every other year, we've gotten a safety to go fit into the scheme. Now, what is interesting is that with the obvious defensive coaching change, I was kind of curious, what would be the same, what would be different. Obviously, it's still going to be a pretty zone-heavy scheme, but, was the safety thing going to continue? Clearly, it did.
As far as the trade details go, the Broncos decided they don't really care about anybody who's in the third round for this year, at least, because they traded for $179 from the Colts and a 2023 third-round pick. So that's what the Colts gave up to move up a few spots to go ahead and get Nick Cross. I'm going to put this out there real quick. So I've been asking, especially the fantasy experts that have been coming on to the show throughout the evening and yesterday, mostly today though. Has there been one guy that was lower on your board but has risen up a drastic amount after being drafted where he did location-wise and also draft capital? For me, the answer to that question has to be Christian Watson going to the Green Bay Packers in the second round to play with Aaron Rodgers. Sammy Watkins can't get through an entire season. And while Christian Watson's a very raw receiver, do not get me twisted, the one thing I did comp to that reminded me a lot was Chase Claypool. And remember, Chase Claypool had a hell of a fantasy year his first year. Why? Because his skill set is one that he can get down the field as a big-bodied, playmaking wide receiver and win you weeks. And by the end of it's all said and done, wind up being an electrifying wide receiver too. Will he be consistent on a week-to-week basis? Probably not with his skill set, but he's in a situation where he's going to be as consistent as he possibly could have ever have been now that he gets to the Green Bay Packers and could theoretically be the lead targeted receiver by the end. What do you think about that, Justin?
I think that's a great comp for him. You're absolutely right. Claypool was not consistent his rookie year, but he had, I believe it was 2 games where he had 3 touchdowns. He was a monster for some weeks. He was almost pulling a Jamar Chase light in the sense where he was pulling off these absolutely monstrous weeks that made his overall finish look amazing. But then he had that downfall. Now, I don't think that downfall would be so bad in the Christian Watson aspect, because he's got Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have, limp arm Ben Roethlisberger throwing on the ball. But for me, I mean, Christian Watson was high up there for me. I believed in the talent more than I saw on the tape. For me, it was Jahan Dotson. I was not a huge Dotson fan. And him going to Washington and getting that capital still doesn't solidify it for me as far as talent goes, but it solidifies it as far as they're going to use him. And they're going to find some way to use him in that offense. And Carson Wentz is not nearly as bad of a quarterback as everybody wants him to be. He still threw for 27 touchdowns last year. I know Adam is our resident Carson Wentz hater, and I understand why, because that was a pretty shitty way to end the season. But I still think that something's going to happen there, and I think Dotson's going to be somebody who's going to rise up on the boards.
So the Lions go with Kirby Joseph. A pretty solid pick for the Lions here. With a safety, got some nice ball hawking skills. That's who they take with their third-round pick here. We're now up to pick 98 going to the Washington Commanders. But I want to ask Jeff. Jeff, was there a guy who jumped up your board that you weren't maybe as high on based on this draft?
Well, there was 2 guys that I wasn't high on coming into the draft that had jumped up. One of them is James Cook, went to the Bills. As a third running back off the board. I did not see that coming. Spiller might go a little bit earlier than him, but with Cook going to the Bills and that potent offense, needing a little bit of a running game to keep Josh Allen from being the running back there, James Cook definitely jumps up. I think I probably have him as my RB3 now behind Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. And the other guy is Sky Moore. I mean, he fell farther than I thought he was going to fall, but then he fell to the perfect situation. Going there basically to replace Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. I think Sky Moore's value definitely took a nice little jump.
Yeah, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. That's actually a really good one. So we're looking at their weapons. They got Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You have Travis Kelce. You're going to have Sky Moore now. What kind of a target share do we think he could actually look at in 2022? Anybody can jump in.
That's a tough question because I don't know how, it's hard with rookies because you think that they can step right in and just pick up, but the jump from the NFL to the from the college to the NFL is huge, and getting that playbook down is going to be key, especially in an offense like Kansas City that's very, very pass heavy. They have run a lot of complicated schemes as far as their route running goes, so it'll really depend on how fast Sky Moore can pick up the playbook and gain Patrick Mahomes' trust as far as how he can get the target share there.
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think Jeff made a great point. I think it's going to depend on how quickly he kind of gets acclimated to the pros. I think this guy is going to take, you're going to kind of want to see is this something he can kind of take ground running. I talked about it earlier. I thought it reminded me a lot of Eskridge, a guy that I think is going to have a harder time to kind of find his role at year one because there's not a clear, obvious place for him. Travis Kelce's still going to be the top dog in that offense. You play MVS enough money to kind of be that deep threat. Juju's going to get a chance to kind of be a guy that underneath it as well. So when you kind of look at all the different mouths that are being fed, where does that really leave him? Is he a Mikael Hardman? Mikael Hardman was always a guy that every year in fantasy owners wanted to kind of hope was going to boom at some point, but never really did. I think he's more talented than Hardman as a receiver, but I think when you look at what your targets you're going to get, what you're going to see, it'll be remain to be kind of seen. As for the guy who kind of jumped up my board fantasy-wise, I got to go with White. I was not a big White fan at all. It was the guy I thought was basically a glorified receiver, but he fell into the perfect situation where Tom Brady will use him as a glorified receiver, and that will be just fine for him in the PPR purposes moving forward. I thought he was a guy who was going to probably get drafted for a team that was going to have a struggle to kind of figure out how to use it properly. And I think now instead, I think he's going to have a clear role and has an offense that can actually feature him.
Going back a little bit, the Cincinnati Bengals moved up and drafted Zach Carter, and the Commanders take Brian Robinson, the running back out of Alabama. So they take a bruiser to pair up with Antonio Gibson. I will say a bruiser is the one thing they were missing, right? You have J.D. McKissick, you have Antonio Gibson. Doesn't necessarily mean Brian Robinson in the late third round here will definitively work into playing time right away, but that's not significant draft capital to spend on a running back. So, Adam, how do you think this is all breaking down now with the Commanders?
I have very little faith in production from their running back room as a blanket statement. I'm going to be honest with you. The interior of their offensive line is worse than it was last season. It already wasn't that great, obviously due to injury in large part, but nonetheless, it was not that great. And as far as McKissick is concerned, I don't hate Wentz, but he is certainly not someone that is going to be checking it down to a running back. That's just not him. I think I've talked about it earlier on this program. I think Wentz is a plus for McLaurin, but I think he's a minus for McKissick. It's certainly not going to be the resurgence of the Gibson receiving hype train. That's not happening with Wentz. So then adding another guy to potentially tear into his carries, I think that all of them, all of the running backs in this backfield have downticked this offseason.
This is going to be a bittersweet pick for me. The Browns have taken David Bell off the board. It's bittersweet because I love David Bell. I don't know why he fell so far, just because of his 40 time. That was never his big asset in college to begin with. He's a highly productive receiver, a great route runner, and he was just born to play the position. I love everything about him, but it's bitter because I think in a lot of ways he's kind of like an Amari Cooper who's already on the team, and he's not going anywhere anytime soon. So I don't know if he has an immediate role now, or if even if he does, then somebody's going to be playing out of position as a result. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I agree with that assessment right there, because I think the other guys they have on the team with Schwartz and DPJ play a different role than what David Bell would play if he was to be the starter. He is kind of the guy behind Amari Cooper, so I don't know if he's going to see the field as often as we would hope as dynasty owners. So, yeah, David Bell, tough spot for him to land there. But if Deshaun Watson, gets his stuff cleared up and he is playing there as a great quarterback, besides all the off-the-field stuff, maybe he gets a connection with David Bell, and David Bell, could be a good receiver. But, yeah, right now I think it's tough looking at that offense to see him into a role right away.
Oh, and let's think about that a little bit further. And Justin, I'm going to ask you this question. They get Deshaun Watson. They trade for Amari Cooper. Now they're going to draft David Bell. They have upcoming receivers like Donovan Peoples-Jones, but this is all on an offense that's one of the heaviest running offenses in the league. Kevin Stefanski, that's his background. That's what he does. Do you really think he's going to open this thing up enough for fantasy people like us to really be able to eat?
Probably not. I mean, I think it'll open it up a little bit, but at the end of the day, like you said, it's Nick Chubb, it's Kareem Hunt. Deshaun Watson definitely adds a different layer to it, but they're going to stick with what they've been doing. They built that offensive line to be a run-blocking offensive line. So, I mean, I like David Bell, and I think that he has very Michael Thomas-esque traits. I think he's a great route technician. I think that you can throw him in different spots, and he can be a little bit more unique than Amari Cooper. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is trash, to be honest. I think he is a one-trick pony that should be fucking ran out of town. But You know, for David Bell, obviously he's not the one-trick pony that they would need to replace him, so he probably won't be taking up those routes. But I would love to see him more incorporated in this offense. This is gonna be one of the offenses I'm very excited to see because Deshaun Watson's getting in there, and I don't know about you guys, but I would love to see Nick Chubb get the ball more as a passing running back because that man is a freight train with the ball in his hands, and I'm just
You can go ahead and finish your thought right after this. Majai Sanders just came off the board and went to the Arizona Cardinals. So, Justin, go ahead and finish your thought first.
Yeah. My thought was pretty much just I'm going to be excited to see what the Browns do with this offense because it's just the great minds can adjust to everything that they have. And I think Kevin Stefanski has a great mind for offense. So I think that he's going to take in Deshaun Watson. He's going to take in all the talent he has now. And he's going to adapt his offense. He's going to incorporate more pass, but he's also going to stick to his guns and still have the run be predominant. So it's going to be interesting to see is all I really have to say about that one.
Chris, give me your reaction to the Majai Sanders pick, but also talk about what Justin just said and kind of touch on that a bit.
Yeah, Majai Sanders, I love. The only thing that kind of threw me off why I don't have him higher on my board is that I didn't realize he's only 228 pounds. He was listed as 245 for most of the college. I thought maybe add a little bit of weight at that point, but when he came 228 at the combine, that blew my mind. But when you watch the tape, talk about a guy who can get the edge and get around the edge and bring pressure. This guy can. I love what I saw when he can create havoc in the backfield. Long arms, keeps people off his body. Lanky has ability to kind of counter when people try to get into his body. I really like this guy, and I think he's actually a really good fit for the Cardinals. For Adams, what Justin's kind of hitting on, I agree. I think the key, though, is going to be, is it really Stefanski's team anymore, or is it going to be Deshaun Watson's team? Because with $230 million in your pocket, I think that the quarterback's going to dictate what this offense is going to be. And I think that's where you're going to kind of see, does Deshaun want to open it up? Does he want to throw the ball? Because most of these quarterbacks do. We talked about, Lamar earlier in the show, about was he happy about the Brown trade or not because he wants to throw the ball more. I think Deshaun Watson made it very clear he wants to throw the ball. So when you look at what they have around him, Bell could have a really nice ceiling because Jarvis Landry was pretty good in this offense. He's going to run a lot of similar kind of routes that Jarvis Landry did in the way.
But doesn't Amari Cooper have to be out the way first?
Well, Amari Cooper, I think Amari Cooper's being a little too pigeonholed in the sense he's not a possession guy necessarily. Amari Cooper's kind of fast still. He's not a guy who's running like a 4.8 out there. So I think Amari Cooper can be utilized all over the field. In Minnesota, you saw guys kind of be interchangeable in that slot role in a sense. You saw Stephon Diggs and Thielen kind of rotate. Stefanski comes from that, idea. So I think you can kind of see these guys utilized properly if they commit to it. Now, I can't disagree with Justin because what they have been doing is running the ball, and Stefanski has been his team. That's what they committed to. But when Haslam goes out there and pays the quarterback $230 million and gives up that draft capital for him, it might be about him more so moving forward, and that's where we're going to kind of answer to.
The Jets can't quit the tight end position. They go with Jeremy Ruckert, blocking tight end out of Ohio State. So they signed E.J. Usama. They trade for Tyler Conklin, and now they draft a tight end here in the third round. Jeff, do you want to give me your immediate reaction?
Just real quick, I wanted to finish my thought on David Bell. I wanted to ask Chris because he seems to know a lot about beyond just the fantasy stuff. Could David Bell be that receiver that is a downfield type blocker in that offense? I mean, is he a good blocker? He's
a very good blocker. I think that's one of the key things is he's willing to get physical. Like I said, I don't think he's going to necessarily have the career Cooper Kupp has, but what you kind of see Cooper Kupp do, the guy's willing to kind of get dirty, do the little things that get open, crack block, do those little kind of things that kind of open up the rushing attack. He's absolutely willing to kind of do those things.
Yeah, I looked up Anthony Schwartz, and he's like 186. I'm sure he's not a good blocker. So you put David Bell out there at 6'2", 205. It's a much better run blocking situation there for Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I definitely like that. As far as the pick the Jets just made, I'll try to pull up their depth chart. Who do the Jets have at tight end right now? I can't even
CJ Usama, they just paid a 3-year, $28 million contract to, and they traded for Tyler Conklin from the Minnesota Vikings.
That's right. So they got a whole plethora of tight ends there. I mean, I guess with rookie tight ends, especially when you drafted them this late, they take a while to develop. Usama's has some injury history there, so there's a potential that he could be filling in for that. I do like Ruckert. He was a guy that I scouted and I liked him a lot. Now he's not an super athletic guy. I think he's more of a catch it and fall down kind of guy. But that's just as good in the NFL. If you catch it and fall down in the end zone a few times, then you're a top tight end. So I think Rucker kind of fills that role for the Jets, and he's a good blocker as well.
Mercedes Lewis.
Yeah, that's exactly the role I think he's going to fill. They're taking a page out of the Colts playbook, I believe. So the Dolphins are going to be up. Finally, we haven't been able to talk about the Dolphins yet so far this draft night. We'll see what direction they're going to go. After that, we got the Kansas City Chiefs. But Adam, I want to get to you. Did I get to get your answer as far as who's the guy that moved up your board that you were surprised by?
No, but I agree with most of the people that you've said. I wasn't a high on Sky Moore person. I had him as my receiver 9, but certainly him going to the Chiefs elevates that a little bit, even if he doesn't hit the field right away, because of the rookies, he was my wide receiver 9. Similarly, Christian Watson was towards the top of my tier 2 of receivers, him going to Green Bay. That certainly pumps him up. What you said about White, Chris, I agree there. I guess the other name I'll throw out, and this is my homer thing that I'm just going to say, I loved him before the draft, though, so it's not just a homerism. I don't think most people would have assumed that Alec Pierce would walk immediately into a role where he will be on the field.
That's what
I don't think that was an assumption that
time.
most people had. I liked him a lot, but again, I think as far as someone that is going up on boards, he's now has second-round draft capital and be on the field day one a significant amount of the time. And he may not be one of the top receivers in the fantasy consensus eyes, but he'll be on the field immediately, and that's something.
That's more important than anything else is just getting on the field sometimes in fantasies. You're on the field, you can score points.
I'll throw one more thing out there for Adam that benefits him as well. Matt Ryan's not afraid to throw to that long ball to those guys, the big, tall receivers specifically. So I think it's a good fit as well.
Exactly. I think it's a really good fit. I like him a lot, but regardless, I think he's going up on boards to have gone to the second round, to have gone somewhere where he can play right away. So I think he's someone jumping up on boards in general.
That was the one. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'll say my co-host on my show loves him. Talked about him pretty much this whole offseason. So I'm sure he's ecstatic as far as where he went as well, because he's going to step right into a full-time role.
Well, it's the combination of the two. Not only is he going to get playing time, but this is a guy, again, he has that downfield, take the top off, explode for 4 catches for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns in a single game. That's the type of player that he is. So if you combine that with a guy who's in a good quarterback, with a good system, and he's going to be on the field right away, and there's nobody, he fits that offense perfectly. Yep. I also want to focus on the point of what that does for Michael Pittman's value, because I actually think it boosts it, because now Pittman, he's free to do whatever he wants to do. And with Pierce taking off the top now, guess what? He doesn't have double and triple coverage covering him in a box anymore.
It helps Taylor as well. I mean, it's going to keep another guy out of the box as well, that kind of speed that you so you can't just key on taking Jonathan Taylor. And I'll add one more caveat where it's, icing on the cake. You play Jacksonville and Houston twice a year on top of everything. So, yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, so with one good corner on Houston's locking up Pittman, then Alec Pierce can have a field day.
All right. I actually kind of like this pick made by the Dolphins here. They go with Channing Tindall, linebacker out of Georgia here with their 3rd round pick. Nice little filler need here to come in. He can play inside or outside. He's athletic enough to do it. What's your guys' immediate reaction, Chris?
My immediate reaction is, God damn, that Georgia defense must have been loaded. But you're taking like their 4th linebacker off the team. I mean, yeah. But it's a guy that I agree with. He's definitely a guy who can kind of serviceable role, a solid all-around player. I don't love him this high, but I think he's going to be a guy who's going to be on an NFL roster and probably, be a guy that can be semi-productive out there.
Yeah, what the NFL is telling us is that Georgia could have played against an NFL offense. That's basically what they have been telling us throughout these first 2 rounds. Because, I mean, I'm thinking back to even the U days when they were super dominant and had, Warren Sapp and all those guys. I don't even think they had this many players come off in the first 3 rounds.
As a U fan, it's not so much the players that came off. It's the fact that, like I'm saying, the 4th, 5th linebacker on the team is being drafted. That's where you're like, wait a minute. You're drafting backups on the teams. That's what's going on right now in the top 3 rounds. So that's where it's like, wow, I haven't seen that before.
All right, the Chiefs pick is in. Oh, and back-to-back inside linebacker. I like this pick, actually, for the Chiefs quite a bit, too. Leo Chenal, he comes in. He's a nice run stuffer. That's something they desperately need. They need a big, thick linebacker to get some girth, get some power, get some stopping power there in the box, because running on the Chiefs has been very easy to do. This will help a little bit with that. Justin, give me your reaction to this pick.
I wish that he had went to the 49ers. No, he's a great linebacker. He's going to fit their scheme really well. They need some defensive playmakers right now, and this guy looks like he's going to be a leader, to be honest. I think he could have fit in with just about 32 or 32 teams. He's just got that kind of like personality, and just his tape. He's got that presence. You know what I mean? Like, he's a monster up the middle. He's a fast guy. He's fierce. He's the type of guy that you want to build a team around on defense. And, you know, even though he doesn't look like he's got too much sideline to sideline speed, but, you know, he just got that presence in the huddle, it seems.
No, you're probably going to take him off on third down because he doesn't have any hips whatsoever. But this guy will be an enforcer on first and second down. And not for nothing, Wisconsin, they do a wonderful job of producing NFL pro-ready inside linebackers. Adam, you're nodding along. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. They are everything run-related is what they do. Stop the run, block for the run, sometimes some running backs. That's about it. That's what Wisconsin does. That's what Wisconsin brings to the table.
So the Rams are finally on the board, and this is the pick that they would have taken Cole Strange for. Thank you, Sean McVay, for the soundbite of the offseason for that one. So let's go. Let's circle back around here. 49ers will be the last pick of the third round. The compensatory picks will fill out at 105. Chris, who was the guy that came up off your board? Came up after this draft over the last three rounds now?
Like I said, you mean fantasy-wise?
Yes. Did I get to you already on that one?
Yeah, I commented on
that.
The running back. That's okay.
What?
Yeah, like I said, that White was the guy that jumped up my thing. I was not a White fan at all. A guy that I definitely thought was like a one-trick pony at best, but him fitting with Tom Brady and Tampa Bay just makes too much sense, PPR especially wise. The guy that I wouldn't even want to look at next year in the draft, but now I have to.
Well, it looks like the Rams were sticking with interior offensive linemen come hell or high water. They take Logan Bruss from Wisconsin. So looking for that zone type of guard in the interior to run that zone system there for Sean McVay. So the 49ers will come here on the clock. They're going to get ready to track it down here. Chris, I want to say this, though, so just to kind of piggyback off Rashad White coming off the board. The guy I can't help but notice is still on there is Isaiah Spiller. Do the 49ers go 2 for 2 at running back? No, I'm just kidding. But where do you think Isaiah Spiller would go?
Probably. I mean, the place that would have made a lot of sense if they were going to spend draft capital on running back that they already did was Seattle, because I think it would be a good fit for them. His physicality kind of is built. But with your pick, it kind of leaves it open. When you look around, I think you're looking for him to kind of be a tandem back. He's not a guy I can really feel is going to be your true workhorse. I don't love him necessarily in pass protection or in third down. I know people think he can be that guy. I don't. So I think he should best serve as the guy kind of being that early down guy to tandem with somebody else. I thought a good fit would have been the Jets as well. They kind of took that away. So I kind of looking around, it's really hard for me to find a good fit. Buffalo was a good fit, I thought, but they took another running back. So go ahead, Adam.
I got one to throw out immediately. I think that's Atlanta. I think that would be a good landing spot for him. And kind of as you were saying, I don't think he's there as a receiver. And I do think he showed flashes as a pass blocker. When he seemed interested, he could do it capably. It's just he didn't always seem all that interested in.
So the last pick we're going to talk about, the San Francisco 49ers just took the SMU wide receiver Danny Gray off the board. So, Jeff, let's kick this over to you. What's your reaction to us taking a wide receiver, a speedster, but somebody, frankly, I had a 6th-round grade on?
Yeah, I don't even think I scouted him at all for fantasy, so I know very little about this guy. You say speedster, so I guess we do need some team speed. So, you know, if we're going to get a receiver, get a guy with speed. I know we were also looking at Velus Jones, who went a little bit earlier. I think he went to the the Seahawks, but
Same guy.
yeah, it's basically the same player. Yeah, that's, I was thinking that. I know we scouted him, so I think Danny Gray. I mean, I don't know. Like, how does he fit? Like, I think we on defense here. I think we could have gone cornerback or safety here, but if we're going to go receiver, I guess this fits the mold that we need to fit on our team. So I'm all for it.
He fits special teams. Yes, that's what he's there for. That's what he's going to wind up playing.
It's a tough one for me because he is a really good athlete, but he wasn't that productive at SMU.
No.
He broke out
49
pretty
receptions,
old.
800 yards, 9 touchdowns.
He's what, 23, 24?
Yeah, he's another old one.
Nothing about this seems like a great pick to me, to be honest with you. Like an older prospect who didn't play that great at SMU is not.
Yeah, I'm on the CBS site here, and they do an instant analysis, and they're like, "This is a little early for a one-trick pony." Basically what it is.
This feels very Anthony Schwartz last year.
Yeah, that's a good comp. That is a very good comp to the situation. Go ahead, Chris.
It's Marquise Goodwin. It's Sheffield. It's Taylor Gabriel. Should I keep going with the Kyle Shanahan? We draft a 5'9" guy who's fast, and we never use him.
Yeah.
What it does might screw you is Brandon Ayuk might be considered not being professional again during the summertime because he'll get benched for some reason for this guy. But that's the only thing I can really think that could happen. That's going to be, 49er worthy news out of this.
This isn't going to be significant, but just to kind of put a bow on this thing, the 49ers, they only had, very limited draft picks because they trade them all for Trey Lance. And what do? They draft the same positions they do every freaking year. They get a linebacker / defensive end. You drafted a running back in the 3rd round, and he followed it up with a speedster wide receiver. And everybody goes, special teams, he can run straight really fast. It's what they do every single season. And then I have to sit here and watch this yet again, and I get to look forward to Trey Lance to ruin my team again next season. Wonderful way to end the draft. Look, guys,
why not Darian Kennard? Why not go and get the fucking Kentucky guard?
We made it through day 2.
We literally just lost our guard.
Actually, Adam, you just brought up a really good point. Before we kick this thing all out and for the night, and it was a wonderful time. But if you guys want to comment in, who are you surprised that's still on the board right now? Anybody can go.
Yeah, so Kennard, first and foremost, is one of them.
Yeah.
Have we seen Tariq Woolen off that I've missed?
Nope.
Woolen
hasn't gone. My boy Philly hasn't gone. Kennard hasn't gone. There's quite a few talented guys still on this board.
I'll tell you who I'm surprised by, even though I wasn't big on him, is Shakir. Shakir is still on the board. I kind of thought he would go around the same territory Sky Moore would.
I mean, he's better than Danny Gray. So, I mean, yeah.
Speaking of people better than Danny Gray, if we're getting a fast guy, where's Calvin Austin?
Calvin Austin better. I think right now in this draft, what I'm finding out for myself is I'd be trading down every chance I could and watch all these GMs make idiots of themselves, and so all the value falls to me because that seems to be what's happening.
Yeah. Also surprised by Spiller, of course. It sounds like you don't like him. I like Dameon Pierce, although 4th round's probably where he needs to go, 4th or 5th, where he fits well. But I do think he's a good player. Again, Mechie is another one. I don't think he's gone off yet.
He went to Houston. Kobe Bryant, the other corner in Cincinnati. The guy that was, I think, very good. I don't think his tape is much worse than McDuffie's tape. So I look at a guy, I'm very shocked he's still on the board considering all these corners have come off the board.
And then Chris, I think we liked him, Kolar.
Yeah, Charlie Kolar. There's a couple tight ends that have been jumping off the board. Adam, before we jump off, what was your opinion of the tight end Woods being drafted by the Colts? I hate it. Dan seems to like it, but I'm not as excited.
To me, it's just early. Woods is such an interesting profile that I don't hate getting him a little bit ahead of where he should go, but I really don't see much use for him other than as a blocker and a red zone threat in the next 2 years. He body catches 95% of the time. Like, the hands are atrocious, but the physical specimen that he is, like, I kind of get it. That seems to be Ballard's MO in the middle of the draft. Whether it's an edge rusher, whether it's a tight end, whether it's someone like that, just find some physical specimen and go figure it out.
Well, I think that's more. I like his talent. I think he's a physical specimen, but we already been screaming from the rooftops for 2-3 years now about their use of Ali Cox.
Yes.
Why is this going to be?
And this is another Mo Alley Cox, to your point.
Gigantor Part 2. He is literally a clone of Gigantor.
Yes.
Well, maybe one of them will actually hit, and maybe that's the idea.
I think 2 to 3 years down the line, this could end up being a really good pick. I just don't know if it's going to be something that's instantly gratifying.
We'll have to see. That's going to do it for us tonight, though, guys. Chris and our throats are done. I want to thank all of you for coming on. We had a great time. This was our second annual draft coverage where we do the first 3 rounds. This year definitively was even better than last year, and a lot of that had to do with the fact of the guests that we had on this year, quite frankly. So Jeff, I want to start with you. Where can we follow you at? What do you have coming up next?
You can follow me on Twitter at Jeff Lambert77. We have a podcast that's live basically every night, going for 2 live on YouTube. We've got about 7 or 8 different shows that go live on there. And my show is on Wednesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we got an awesome month coming up. We got booked Jeff Hasley next week. We got Mike Clay. We got Ryan McDowell, and we got Scott Fish in the month of May.
Awesome.
So a pretty jam-packed month there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Make sure you guys check that out. Justin, give it to me, man.
Oh, yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Back-to-back years. It was a wonderful time as usual. So, yeah, you can catch me at Semtex Max 93. Always writing for Belly Up. I'm going to be writing top risers and top fallers for this draft once it's concluded. Also, Dynasty Brews podcast. We record every Thursdays. It goes live on Twitter on Thursday, and then it goes live on Belly Up TV on Saturdays at 9 a.m. And TSS Fantasy, we go live 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. on Fridays. So, yeah, that's it for me.
Adam, how about you?
Oh, finally. I've gone through this little ending process a handful of times here tonight, and I didn't get to say anything. But yeah, you can find me at LaRue Adam on Twitter. I, of course, bi-weekly, including next week, do the Belly Up Fantasy Live on Tuesdays over on the Belly Up Fantasy Twitter. So come check us out then for sure. I'll also be updating just yesterday I released my top 5 rookie quarterbacks, top 15 receivers, top 5 running backs, top 5 tight ends. I'll go a little bit deeper at running backs, and we'll do a little post-draft ranking here in the next week or so. So excited for that to get everyone's landing spot and kind of adjust and see how things have changed.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that one. Chris, what do you think? We can go another 4 rounds?
I'm just trying to figure if the LSU running back is going to be on Adam's list now.
Yeah, I'll just give you a bit of a preview. He will not be, I don't think.
Chris, great job, man. It's a marathon when we do these things, but we really have a lot of fun doing them. Again, it's because of a lot of the guests that we have on. It really makes this a blast. Plus, it's football, and we love it. We're actually going to be taking a week off. We'll be back. It's the second week of May with our show. We're going to be moving from Wednesdays at 9 p.m. to Thursdays at 10 p.m. That'll just be for the off season. When the regular season comes back around, we'll be back to 5 days a week. It'll always be at 10 p.m. Eastern on bellyup.tv, also on YouTube. Please subscribe to that. Guys, had a great time. Dan Mader, Chris Dowhauer, Jeff Lambert, Adam LaRue, Justin Herrera. We'll see you guys again next year.
Free Denzel Mim.